thinks Frisbee golf is the sport of the future. She's sticking with football. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Whoa, we got NFL playoffs. Hey, welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. And the night was capped by one of the crazier games we've seen. Good morning, Perloff.
Crazier? Okay. Bills win 21-14. Not to spoil it. They should have won that game 52-7.
Oh, I know.
What happened?
Watching the Buffalo Bills, and specifically Josh Allen on offense, is like taking every drug at one time. You're high, you're low, you're up, you're down, it's light, it's dark, you're crying, you're laughing. It's a crazy experience, and it was on full display last night in a game that had not the most stakes, but one of the games that had the most stakes. Bills win, they get the number 2 seed, and now they will host, if they win, 2 home playoff games. The first one coming against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who themselves won a crazy game that was on Saturday in a driving rainstorm. So much to get to, but, you know, we're going to talk about all the matchups. We're going to talk about the playoffs and how everything came down yesterday and Saturday. But I think there's a fundamental question that people tend to disagree on after watching Josh Allen, which is, can this player ever win a Super Bowl? Because he's got all the talent, the arm talent, but the decision-making at times is so horrendous. It is the one thing that is kind of like the equalizer. If it was just about talent, he'd be like one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But the decision-making is so absent and so reckless at times, you wonder if that will perennially and forever be his fatal flaw.
Yeah, it's funny. You know that expression, the game slows down for a quarterback? Like, it seemed to slow down for Jordan Love this season. Like, he can see the field. It doesn't slow down at all for Josh Allen. And it doesn't really matter because
the game speeds up.
Come playoffs, you know, they're in a little bit of a similar boat to the Baltimore Ravens, where the future of their quarterback's health is completely irrelevant. Josh, how many times did he run the ball last night? If you count all the sneaks, by the way, a lot of tush pushes that I'll bet you're into now.
That for some reason don't work.
Don't really work.
I don't know what Leonard Fournette's doing back there, man. Push.
But they clearly, like, Josh Allen's so confident in his size that he'll sell out his body on any play. That's why you can win without a quarterback who cannot see the field and is not making the right decision time and time again. If it's 3rd and 6 in the fourth quarter, obviously Josh Allen's going to run for a first down. So this is the same old story. They're basically a running quarterback team, which is funny because you don't think of him like Lamar Jackson, but in some you actually have compared him many times. But most people do not think of him like that. But he really is, like, if he didn't have that secret weapon, if the Bills didn't have that secret weapon, I don't know where they'd be, because he is not running a consistent passing offense at all.
No, which is funny because they do have weapons, but it's true. Josh Allen, 15 carries last night. That led the team.
He's gonna go 15 every playoff game too. So you have to deal with that if you're a defense.
Perloff at one point texted me, "Did the Bills have a playbook on offense?"
He never runs the first read.
Yes, and I said they threw the playbook of the garbage in 2020. Like, there's that, and that's again what comes down to this question. And Carlos, I think we should put this as a poll question today with EJ a little under the weather. Carlos and Manny are here hanging with us. Will Josh Allen ever win a Super Bowl? Because, again, you had the 2 touchdowns, but you also had the 2 interceptions, and you had a brutal fumble that happened at the end of the third quarter. Honestly, the spark that happened for Buffalo, and the most important play of the game for them, besides Taylor Rapp's game-sealing interception on Tua, was the punt return for a touchdown from Deontay Hardy, who was the first player that the Bills signed in free agency this offseason. Like, wow, I guess we're going after them are going after Deontay Hardy. Look at the guy just made all of his money right with that play, because it really did turn the tide. And then on the flip side for the Miami Dolphins, I had been someone who was high on them. They now get the short end of the stick here. They have to go to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. That's going to be a brutal place to play, especially because the weather report has it at bitter, freezing cold temperatures.
The Dolphins are cooked. I mean, to me, the emblematic thing of the Dolphins last night was Melvin Ingram trying to go out there and play football at this stage of his career.
Well, first of all, coverage over Dalton Kincaid.
First of all, you haven't been to a weight room in 3 years. Put some sleeves on, dude. They were, and Christian Wilkins was. What happened to Miami having the advantage of the heat? Christian Wilkins looked like he was melting last night. The Dolphins are just too beat up. And Van Ginkel, I don't know how bad he's injured, but he's a great player this year. So they lost Jalen Phillips. Obviously, who's the other pass rusher they lost?
Bradley Chubb.
Bradley Chubb. And now Van Ginkel's out. I'm sorry, it's not happening this year. And everyone knows they have one offensive weapon since Waddle hasn't been out on the field consistently. So once Tyreek Hill, that's what I'm saying. The Bills should have won this game 52-7. They handed this to the Dolphins to make it a close game. And the Dolphins have not beaten a good team anyway. So that's well, okay. You're right. They did beat the Cowboys. But that makes me wonder about the Bills. Are the Bills going to make it a close game with anybody?
Yes.
Probably not the Steelers. The Steelers without TJ Watt are as harmless an NFL playoff team as we've seen in a long time.
Okay, but are we sure they're going to be without TJ Watt?
That's a good question.
That's the other big headline that came out of the weekend. And again, that was from Saturday with TJ Watt. A little friendly fire, right? It was his own guy who got rolled up on him a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, TJ Watt now has, according to JJ, his brother, has a grade 2 MCL strain in his knee. And so
they said a couple weeks rest.
He's going to play.
He is the entire team. Man, you need him causing havoc or you do not have a chance. And even against the Ravens, if there was no TJ Watt, I don't know how the Steelers pull that game out.
So that's what's going on. We will dive more into the Steelers because they potentially have a big decision to make. Now that they're in the playoffs, they are the 7 seed. They're going to go to Buffalo. That is going to be, let me get the time of that game. That game is going to be on, where'd that game go? I just had it. Meanwhile, this is going to be an interesting one. It's 9.5 point spread. So that game's going to be Sunday at 1 o'clock. Pardon me, I lost my schedule. That's up to a 9.5 point spread. We'll talk more about the Steelers. Again, they have some questions about their quarterback situation. Do you start Mason Rudolph? Do you go back to Kenny Pickett? Yeah. We'll talk about that. But here's the thing. You're right about the Bills in that they can beat anybody and they can lose to anybody.
Yep.
And it's all going to come down to Josh. Now, I think that he can win a Super Bowl. I do. I think that there is enough on this team where, first of all, you know he's going to turn the ball over. You're hoping it's not 3 times like it was last night. But I do think there's going to be a moment like last night where, yes, he's going to turn the ball over, but on balance, he makes so many more plays. And just you talk about it like a math equation, the bad plays versus the good. And it will end up in the positive side of the ledger for him.
See, I don't even think Josh Allen is necessarily the only key. You always sit here and say that the Bills need to run the ball.
Yep.
The Bills, actually last night, I didn't think the run game really was cooking, but say they play Baltimore in the championship game. I disagree with you in the sense like Josh Allen's not going to do it. Like you need James Cook. You need someone to control the ball so Lamar doesn't get 1,000 shots at it. You really, I think you need to really slow the game down, commit to the run, do those short passes to Dalton Kincaid, who I told you about, by the way.
Yes. Perloff, you get to claim victory on this. Yeah. The day that they drafted Dalton Kincaid, you and I were in Kansas City for the draft, and you said this is going to be the best thing for you. And I said, well, how about a tight end with a back issue?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's who they should be targeting with their first-round pick. I don't know where they'd be without him.
Well, he's the new slot guy. I mean, Josh Allen needs that slot guy, right?
Definitely.
So I think they control the ball against Baltimore because their defense is good, but you can't. Well, here's what you can't have is Josh Allen throwing 3 interceptions against Baltimore. You can get away with it against a beat-up Miami team. So I don't know. I feel like this is a whole team effort. Just hand the darn ball off. I feel, isn't that what fans always say? Hand the ball off more, when you have an interception-prone quarterback?
Well, that and also, you got to convert on a 4th and inches. I was really surprised, and kudos to the Miami defense, who somehow they were able to stop Josh Allen on a 4th and inches right after they had executed one QB sneak. Then they did another one. He keeps going over the top like Troy Polamalu. It doesn't make sense. Like the way you do the tush push, Jalen Hurts of the Eagles gave you the blueprint. You got to go low on this thing. Going high, that's a recipe for disaster. Get the ball knocked out. I mean, a million bad things could happen. So meanwhile, for as good as a fourth quarter, I guess, as Buffalo had last night to win that game against Miami and win the AFC East, you still had a turnover, 4th and inches, handing it back to the Miami Dolphins, who have this explosive offense, but ultimately Tua threw a pick.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills the last 3 games have kind of kept these bad teams around.
Yep.
I think the Cowboys game, that's the blueprint. I mean, it was in Buffalo, so it was raining, it was kind of cold,
yep.
But they just controlled the game with defense. They looked like Josh Allen didn't have that many mistakes. As he said, he didn't do much that game.
Yep.
That's the best Bills team. Do that. Do that against Kansas City. Mahomes and that team will give you. They can get through to Baltimore pretty easily. I think it's ironically maybe the best AFC picture they've had in a long time.
Well, getting home games. Last year they did, but they squandered it to Cincinnati, who came in and totally wrecked them. First, they barely beat Miami, and then Cincinnati came in and just ruined their day from the very first drive of the game.
Yeah, but Cincinnati was pretty good last
Yep,
year. I don't think that anyone except Baltimore, I mean, does anyone, the Chiefs cannot scare you the way they've been playing. Nobody can catch the football. It is Mahomes, and I know you were scarred by 13 seconds, but still, this is a great opportunity to get to the title game for the Bills.
So that Chiefs game is going to be, let's quickly just go through the playoff, the wild card and everything that got set. So kicks off Saturday, 4:30. That's going to be Browns at Texans. Then 8 o'clock Saturday night, Eastern time, that is. Dolphins at the Chiefs Saturday night, streaming exclusively on Peacock.
Well, good thing the Dolphins are really not healthy because that's not a must-watch.
Well, it's only a 3.5-point spread on that game, so it's definitely a must-watch, by the way.
That
All
is
these
such a
games
criticism of the Chiefs.
It is. That is a slap in the face, I think, to the Chiefs.
If you need to take some time off from football, Monday at 8 p.m., Bucks-Eagles, you can definitely walk away from that
get
game.
to that.
I don't know if every playoff game is the same must-watch. I can't see how the Dolphins team I saw last night is going to really, how are they going to beat the Chiefs?
You got to hope with Waddle back, Mostert back, and you got to hope that some guys end up playing. Like, dudes that they lost in this game last night. You're not getting Bradley Chubb back. You're not getting Jalen.
Van Ginkel's been key to that defense, so they need him back. But it does feel like that is sort of a sloppy matchup. Both teams are playing kind of messy football right now.
Sunday, you get Packers-Cowboys at 4:30 Eastern. Sunday. Steelers-Bills get you started off. Then it's Packers-Cowboys at 4:30 Eastern time. Finishes off Sunday night, Rams at Lions. So the Matthew Stafford return game. And then Monday, Perloff's Eagles against the Bucks.
That's a fun Sunday afternoon. You get Packers, Cowboys, and all that history. Then the revenge matchup, Matthew Stafford against the Lions. I don't know if it's revenge because he's happy they sent him to L.A. Is that a revenge matchup?
I don't think it's a revenge matchup. And I think the fans were cheering for Stafford. The
Lions
fans were cheering for him in the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff are not exactly revenge guys. They seem like
Goff maybe.
I don't know, but they seem like two of the most laid-back, nicest quarterbacks in the league. They're not really out there for blood.
I think Goff may have something to say about this. I mean, this is a team that gave up on him, traded him. Again, it might end up being better for him. They did make a Super Bowl when he was with the Rams and lost to the Patriots. But I mean, if I'm Goff, I'm getting myself up for this game.
Of course you're up for it, but I can't picture Jared Goff being mad at anybody. I've never seen him even express the slightest bit of anger. Jared Goff?
These guys are all killers underneath.
Jared Goff? No, he's not.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. So let's start off. Poll question for you. Can Josh Allen ever win a Super Bowl? Which is funny because we still have the wild card round. We got all these other rounds to go through. I'm not penciling the Bills into the Super Bowl by any stretch, but you got the full experience. It's the full highs and lows. I mean, if last night's game didn't crystallize everything about Josh Allen, I don't know what will. You can watch the show, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio. Pine Needles in the chat said, congratulations, Maggie, but that was an ugly way to make it. You think? Thank you, Titans. And Jags maybe had one of the most disappointing losses of the weekend.
Did you guys have the thought after the Jags loss, the Bills were already in the playoffs, that they maybe weren't as urgent and desperate as they could have been last night? Because they started off, I mean, they kind of hammered them on the offensive line. They should have been up. I didn't sense urgency in the first half from the Bills.
No, that's just how the Bills play.
I think they took their foot off the gas a little bit. If they had needed to win to get in, I think they win that game 40-20. I know that sounds absurd. I think the Bills kind of relaxed a little bit.
You think that Josh Allen intentionally missed Stephon Diggs on a deep route because they knew they were in the playoffs already? I don't think so. This is just how the Bills play, guys. This is
I don't know. I felt like they weren't super tight coming into that game.
You think? That's just how they play. Playoffs, but no playoffs. This is you're getting the same experience.
If they knew, they knew the Dolphins were beat up. If they needed to win to get that game in, I think it would have been easier. I know. I'm just telling you, incentive plays a huge role. That's why they basically won 6 games in a row, because they've been playing for their lives for so long, which is a good formula. But weren't they 6-6 in the 12th seed in the whole AFC?
Yeah, in mid-November.
Yeah. Did you see the number 2 seed coming?
No, not at all. I saw fire everybody coming. I saw moving on from Sean McDermott coming.
How miserable did your man Sean McDermott look last night?
Well, how about this? Okay.
Yeah.
I know they've won a lot of games together, and I realize they won the game last night, and now they have the 2 seed, and they've won the AFC East for 4 straight years. I still don't think it's a great combination of head coach and quarterback. Now, listen, maybe this is the type of coach that Josh Allen needs, right? He needs somebody who's basically going to point out all of his flaws, who's going to rip him when he makes mistakes, and maybe that's, different people need to be coached in different ways. But you would like at halftime when the Bills just had a brutal sequence at the end of the half where they let time expire because Allen threw short of the end zone. I mean, maybe show a little support for your quarterback there. It's been a tough first half. The guy threw 2 interceptions and then had that awful sequence at the end of the half. But you're still only down by a score, and you couldn't have played worse. So, I don't know, maybe show a little support for your quarterback. He is incapable of doing that, Sean McDermott.
Yeah, one thing about Sean McDermott, his defenses have been pretty good.
Yeah, the defense is good.
Top 5 defense again with all those injuries.
I don't know how
think their Bills are underrated defense. Last night they held the Dolphins in Miami to 14 points. So you're right. Chemistry-wise, this does not seem great. But I think McDermott might not be getting enough credit for that defense sustaining. Like, they're outstanding, and they lose everybody. How many injuries did they have this year?
Tons. And I think he does get a lot of credit for that, though.
Okay.
I
think when you look around at defensive gurus, Sean McDermott doesn't jump to mind.
Well, we're going to get an interesting one looking ahead to the matchup, Bills and Steelers. Sean McDermott, Mike Tomlin, former college roommates. Know each other well. 855-212-4CBS. Yes.
The Steelers is the lack of offense guru. I mean, Mike Tomlin could suck the life out of any offense. I think that's been proven.
Okay, well, Saturday was a driving rainstorm.
Yeah.
That was disgusting.
/ snow. That was not pretty.
No. 855-212-4CBS. You can vote on our poll at Maggie and Pearl. Again, Josh Allen, could he ever win a Super Bowl? Or does too many mental mistakes? Okay, coming up, we already have Black Monday in full effect. Who was the coach that got fired late last night? And what does the future hold for that franchise? We've got all of the details for you next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You haven't been to a weight room in 3 years. Put some sleeves on, dude.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining.
This is Maggie Gray with an Odyssey Sports Minute sponsored by Fairfield by Marriott, official hotel partner of the NCAA. This is Maggie Gray with a CBS Sports Minute sponsored by Fairfield by Marriott, official hotel partner of the NCAA. Sorry. One sec. I thought I had my notes up. Here we go. I took your take here for a sports minute. Bill Belichick may have coached his last game for the New England Patriots, and if the reports are accurate, the Patriots and owner Robert Kraft will be looking for a new head coach for the first time since we were all worried about Y2K. It seems a given that the Patriots will hire one of Belichick's former assistants or even a former player, but is that the smartest route? The knock on Belichick's coaching tree is that the acolytes have mostly underachieved when they're detached from Bill. Wouldn't the same pattern hold true now? I'm Maggie Gray.
Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, so we got one happy fan and Maggie Gray with the Bills, number 2 seed. One unhappy fan with Andrew Perloff and the Philadelphia Eagles somehow bottoming out in week 18.
What happened yesterday?
As I told you last week, the Eagles' season ended about 10 days ago. Their defense is so bad. Tyrod Taylor did whatever he wanted. DeVito, actually, we controlled a little bit, but whatever.
Wow. Congrats to you. You were in the Super Bowl last year, and you controlled Tommy DeVito for a couple snaps yesterday.
And as bad as the offense is, the badness of the defense is so overwhelming that it doesn't even matter that Jalen Hurts hurt his finger and A.J. Brown was out. It's over. Now I'm already analyzing the offseason.
Well, cool, but you still have a playoff game against the
Sort
Bucs.
of. I mean, does anybody care about the Bucs-Eagles playoff? They're just, whoever wins that game is going to get slaughtered in San Francisco. We're talking 52-7.
Wait, hold on. If nobody cared about the game, then the networks would have put it on Saturday at 4:30, right? That's the JV game. That's Browns-Texans. And
But
I'd be offended.
The Monday night is not the high. The highest games are Sunday afternoon.
Right, which I know they didn't put them on Sunday afternoon, but generally the Saturday at 4:30 is kind of acknowledged as like some kind of JV game, which I think is wrong, by the way. Texans-Browns is going to be awesome. I'm super excited about it. I'm just saying that's.
I mean, as far as historical matchups and things like that, I mean, you know, throughout the record books when the Texans and the Browns get together in the postseason.
Yes, I'm so pumped about this.
And no one's played that game more than the Texans. They are always in the 4 through
But it's
Saturday
usually,
game.
to be fair, it's usually against the Bengals. It's not usually against the Browns.
Right. But they have made a living of being in that game.
I know, okay, we all love C.J. Stroud, by the way, but you have to admit, both these teams are pretty darn flawed. The Texans can't run the ball at all, and the Browns, Joe Flacco is going to throw about 5 passes to the other team.
You're looking at this the wrong way. Don't look at the Texans and Browns and say, oh, these teams are both flawed. These are two teams that are overachieving in an amazing way. The Browns are on their 4th quarterback, and it happens to be Joe from the couch, Flacco, and he's playing well. And you've got C.J. Stroud, who could become one of the next faces of the league. I mean, he's going to be the Rookie of the Year. This is awesome. This isn't a time to poke holes in their secondary.
All right, if you ran the NFL TV department, like our buddy Ani Bose and Mike North, which would you put? What to you would be the relegated game to Saturday at 4:30?
Your Eagles. That
You
is
put
a
the Eagles
brutal
box?
watch, dude. It's brutal. I don't understand also why the vibes are so bad with the Eagles. It's like not only are you guys playing badly, but it's like where'd all the fun Jalen Hurts? Where's the mojo? Where's Kelsey now, Mr. Fun Fat Guy? Where's he? Like,
You can't touch.
being a people's sexiest man of the century, like get out of here.
It's simple math, Maggie. You can't do the tush push when it's 3rd and 9.
Well, maybe
You don't have a 9-yard tush push in your playbook, so that's one of the problems.
I didn't even think you guys were front runners because you were a good second half team. It turns out you're just really vulnerable.
That being said, you know that the Texans-Browns was going to be that 4:30 game. That's inevitable. As Bogusch said, the Texans I think there's a grandfather clause. They have to play the first playoff game.
Listen, they got their first primetime game against the Colts, and that game delivered. That was a fun game.
It was a fun game, but it wasn't exactly two heavyweights going at each other. It was felt very AFC Southy to me.
Again, found money. Black Monday off to a start already. Andrew Bogusch is here. I'm assuming this is one of your stories.
We'll get to it. It's
Okay.
all sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. Yes, this happened, I think, exactly at 12:02 Eastern time overnight. The Falcons beginning Black Monday by saying goodbye to Arthur Smith. 3 seasons, a sub-500 record, no playoff appearance. The franchise has not made the postseason in 6 consecutive campaigns. Meanwhile, there are those Eagles. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I think their issues are more than just being tired.
Hurts in a shotgun set with Penny to his right. Play fake. Hurts rises up, throws it. He's got Brown on a slant, then fumble the football. It's out, and the Giants have it. Picked up by McFadden. Pushes his way up to the 25. No whistle yet, and finally a whistle. And Brown is down and hurt, too.
A fumble, an injury, their pets' heads are falling off. Bob Papa, Giants radio. The Eagles down 24-0 at halftime of their regular season finale. They lost to the Giants 27-10, closing on a 1-5 skid, which cost them the NFC East and dropped them to the 5 seed. Jalen Hurts and company, as you know by now, play Monday night in Tampa Bay.
You know, nothing else really matters. Nothing else really matters. Not anything of the past. Not any record. Not any past wins or losses.
At least he sounds upbeat.
I was going to say, does he have a pulse? Is he in the concussion protocol? That is awful.
That's it's typical Jalen. Even when Jalen Hurts wins, he's barely sounds like he has a pulse. You know, here's the thing: if the Eagles had beaten the Giants, nobody would have cared anyway. They could have won that game 42-7, and it would not matter because the Eagles were not playing for anything. So what's the difference? You're telling me I did not like this era. Oh, the Eagles need to beat the Giants to prove they have momentum. The Eagles were toast anyway. They could have won that game yesterday, and it wouldn't make the slightest
You're
difference.
Mr. Momentum. You believe in that.
Yeah.
No, momentum in a meaningless game. I said the Eagles should sit their starters. I honestly, I didn't think that there was nothing on the line. There was no way the Commanders were going to beat the Cowboys. So they were not playing for anything, and they kind of knew it.
Well, that was a tight game, actually, in the first half between the Commanders and Cowboys. We'll talk about that game a little bit later on.
That would have been the worst case scenario, by the way. If the Commanders had beaten the Cowboys and the Eagles had lost the Giants and not...
and wave the white flag, basically.
This all fell apart in 2 specific scenarios. They lost to Seattle when they had them beat, and Jalen Hurts threw a stupid interception. And then they lost to the Cardinals in the Link in a game that could have sealed the division. So the Eagles season was lost a long time ago.
How about this in the chat? Sirianni going to get the tush push, which is something that might be on the table now. And again, our friend Pine Needle says, Maggie, it's the curse of Fat Dom. Not to mention their head coach has completely lost the locker room. Remember, Fat Dom, Big Dom, what do they call him? No one's calling each other fat anymore. We're better than that.
Big boned. Husky Dom.
Husky Dom was the security guard who got into it with Dre Greenlaw of the San Francisco 49ers and is banned from the sideline.
I know. It's crazy that has hurt the team so badly.
It's been all downhill since
It
then.
really has.
Man.
But
Dom.
this lost the locker room. You guys know there's nobody who's in this locker room is going to be in next year's locker room. The whole team's going to have a sea change. So I don't know. I'm not a big the coaches lost the locker room guy. I always blame the players. That's why the Eagles can't execute any single play and their defense can't cover anyone because they don't believe in the coach.
I mean, I don't think it's the only reason, but I think it's a symptom of losing. Like, or maybe it's the chicken or the egg. Like, what came first? You lost total faith in your head coach, and then the vibes are off, or the vibes were off, and then you lost faith in the head coach?
Yeah, I think that's the lack of talent on defense.
Well, then don't go to Matt Patricia and make it worse.
It doesn't.
You know?
You could have Vic Fangio, Matt Patricia, Don Shula. It would not matter. These are bad. Anyway, I always blame the players a little bit too. If you stink, it doesn't matter who your coach is. Yeah, you heard it. Yeah,
Good thing you're
Bogusch. What are you going to say?
playing
They
Jalen Hurts all
are
that
tired.
money.
They are tired, by the way. Do you guys are you old enough to remember when I told Bogusch that the Eagles are just tired and that's why they're playing badly?
Yes, we all remember, and then we deleted it from every Maggie and Perloff platform available.
The Cowboys, by the way, beat those Commanders 38-10, so they're the NFC East champs. They host the Packers Sunday afternoon. Green Bay clinched its spot with a 17-9 decision over the Bears at Lambeau. The Rams are in the 6th seed with a 21-10 win at the Niners, with Carson Wentz throwing for 2 scores and running for another. The AFC playoff picture finalized after 11 Eastern last night, with those Bills getting that 21-14 win in Miami. Buffalo scoring 14 fourth-quarter points, then picked off Tua Tagovailoa with 1:13 left in regulation. And now Josh Allen has his 4th straight division crown.
Didn't blink. We came in at halftime and understood, what was going on. We didn't feel like we were playing up to our potential. So this second half, all 3 phases, that's who we are. That's what we're going to need to be going forward.
Allen threw to Dalton Kincaid for the tie-breaking points mid-4th quarter. Maybe Dawson Knox. Which tight end? I don't remember. After 3 turnovers from Allen in Miami territory earlier in the game. Both teams got hurt last night. A knee for Bills receiver Gabe Davis. Miami linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel has a foot injury. So now the Bills host the Steelers 1 Eastern Sunday. Miami goes to KC Saturday night. So it's Browns and Texans Saturday afternoon on NBC. It's Lions-Rams Sunday night on NBC. That's Tirico and Collinsworth. Who's doing the Peacock game? NFL Network people?
No, I think this is the controversial one where they skipped over Al Michaels for Ian Eagles' son Noah.
But shouldn't Noah be doing the Saturday 4:30 game?
Oh, maybe he is.
Oh, right, there's 2 games.
There's technically 3 NBC games this weekend, 2 on NBC and the 1 on Peacock.
I'll bet you Chris Sims is the color guy, maybe.
Or is that going to be like a Rich Eisen game?
Is it going to be Jack Collinsworth?
Why'd I ask?
Is this going to be the Notre Dame broadcast?
No. But you couldn't have an Eagle and a Collinsworth, and neither of them be Chris or Ian. So it's funny because when the headline came out,
it's against FCC.
Is there a Tony Dungy kid that could do color for the game at night?
The headline was, famous broadcaster's son steals Al Michaels' job, and I immediately thought it was Jack Collinsworth, and it was Noah Eagle.
Yeah, Noah does a great job.
Noah's good.
By the way,
Noah's good.
We got to look up this broadcasting crew. You're right. It's 3 games. Are you sure about that, Bogusch? That's a lot of NBC games.
So I triple checked because I'm watching the end of Bills Chiefs last night, and they're doing promo on Bills Dolphins, and they're doing promos. And Tirico mentions we'll be in Detroit. Can't wait for the Stafford return game, and they're promoting Saturday 4:30 NBC, and then please go download Peacock. So they have 3 games that they've got to staff, and he didn't say we're doing Saturday 1 game and then moving to Sunday. Like he's only doing Sunday night. So maybe that is a Jack Collinsworth game. Maybe it's an NFL Network broadcast team. Like maybe Eisen gets in somehow.
Who does the...
well, here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you got private jets. It doesn't even matter. You can't telling me you can't get from Houston from 4:30 on Saturday and then get to Detroit for 8 o'clock on Sunday?
For Tirico, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tirico is a workhorse,
He'll
and he could do it, but... Can you really study the teams and meet with the quarterback and the coach?
Right.
Yeah, Tirico lives in Detroit. He's going to know the Lions inside and out. Well, he knows all these teams. It doesn't matter. Tirico's he never makes a mistake.
But he didn't say it last night. He didn't say, we're doing a double or I'm going to be doing 2 games. Chris will be with me on Sunday night. He would have made a joke about that.
And then Tony Dungy.
And maybe.
And the other game.
Oh, yeah. The play. Dungy.
Jack Collinsworth and Dungy, guys. I think this is what we're looking at.
The McCourty that does the program.
Yeah.
I think it's Devin.
Can't tell them apart.
He's really
no
good.
One can.
You know what? They have a lot of talent. I just wonder about the play-by-play there. Huh. Interesting.
All right.
Funny because they had Al Michaels.
You know what's funny?
They had a guy.
Maybe Al Michaels didn't want to do Peacock. No, he would. He's doing
Amazon.
Yeah,
right.
What's the difference?
It's a shame. This Dolphins-Chiefs game should be epic, but it really... I'm not sure Peacock's quite getting what they want. I think they'll get a decent rating there, but the Dolphins being hurt kind of hurts that one.
They're in it for the Taylor Swift cutaways.
Yeah, they get Taylor Swift. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys see the Taylor clip from the Golden Globes?
Yeah, she was not happy with that
not
joke.
Not even a little bit.
I mean, what's the joke? Lighten up, Taylor. How about that? Lighten up.
Or was she trying to be funny with a death stare and it didn't land?
I thought maybe she was trying to put the joke, and I'm like, oh, Kelsey's the better actor here, isn't he? Like, by a mile. Like, what? The joke was so lame. So the joke was Taylor Swift, the Golden Globes. I don't even know the comedian's name.
Joe Coy.
I've never heard of him before, but apparently he bombed
he's a
the
big
monologue.
deal, right? Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's just because I don't know him doesn't
No,
mean he's
I don't
not
know.
a big deal.
I don't know him that well either, but I
he
know
made
he's a big
joke,
comedian.
And he goes, "Oh, the Golden Globes were coming on after a doubleheader of football on CBS, and what's the one thing they have more of is cutaways of Taylor Swift,
Something like that. Yeah.
Unlike the NFL, we have less cutaways at the Golden Globes of Taylor Swift or something to that effect.
And she's there, and she takes a sip of champagne, like sort of deadpan. And everyone's like, Taylor was so mad. If she really was, lighten up. And if she wasn't, she's a terrible actress.
No, I like the term on Twitter. I saw she no-played that joke. She single-handedly killed that joke. I watched some Golden Globes during the millions of timeouts in the Dolphins-Bills game. Somebody needs to feed some of those women a donut. Everyone is so skinny.
The men too.
Yeah. Ryan Gosling could use a donut as well. You're right.
These guys are just tiny.
Yeah, I did notice skinny must be in Hollywood because everybody was
I think that's since the black and white era.
But no, I was like, oh my gosh, all these people look
out there in Hollywood. You don't say.
I think they're skinnier than usual.
Okay.
No, am I wrong? I mean, there was like Naomi Watts was giving a reward to Emma Stone. There must have been 0% body fat on the entire set there.
No, people are like, Marilyn Monroe had these curves. It's like she was like 102 pounds.
Oh, yeah, but I mean,
not that weight means anything. I'm just saying. It's
right.
not like she wasn't Christina Hendricks, who also, by the way, in real life does not look like so voluptuous.
Well, Scarlett Johansson is she probably weighs 85.
Oh my gosh, she's tiny.
Yeah, I mean, anyway. I don't think this is I should not say. I don't think men like that super skinny look. I don't.
ScarJo's ugly. You're right.
No, ScarJo. No, men love ScarJo, but she's not built like that. Like I think
Kim Kardashian.
Men like people who look like real people. I'm not. Yeah.
Tell me, men like women who look like real women.
Yeah, I think like this unrealistic skinny model in Hollywood is not super attractive to me. I think Hollywood goes too skinny. Obviously, I think it's a bad image. I have 2 young daughters. I'm like, I hope they're not watching these Golden Globes and think they have to wear a dress like that because they look stupid. Carlos, I said it.
Come for the sports, stay for the variety.
There's something I want to say, but Pete's not here, and he's the person I trust on the dump button.
What if you spell it?
I can't. Okay, I can spell it.
Okay.
And it's something that someone once told me because I don't really know about this kind of thing. No judgment. But it's something someone once told me about PORN, which is that men tend to watch
adult videos.
Well, that look like real people. I'm sure there's still the Jenna Jamesons and all the people who look like totally plastic and all of that. But there's something about, especially since like in the era of kind of like DIY, if you will, porn. It's like I'd rather look at somebody who just looks like a regular person as opposed to a glossy, fake, someone like a plastic looking person.
Right. Yeah.
No? Yes, no?
100%.
Okay.
Whatever. I mean, this is getting way too deep. Margot Robbie might be an exception. She's pretty cute.
Yeah, she's a very attractive person. But anyway,
I'm
I think
gonna
there's
have
something.
12 texts from Pete in like 2 minutes.
Did she spell porn again?
I think there's something to people looking like real people.
Right. I do think Hollywood often makes that mistake where they make these people look like sort of plastic dolls.
It's kind of like a high fashion thing. It's not supposed to be.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think it's supposed to look sexual necessarily. I think it's supposed to look couture. Like it's supposed to look. I don't know.
Yeah, but I do feel...
I'm in the deep end on this one, guys.
So
I
can
use some
NBA scores if you want.
6:40 on a Monday morning here. Can we get real, though? I sometimes feel like women misunderstand what guys are attracted to. Because, like, I remember when... long time ago, guys were all into Scarlett Johansson. Women were like, why? I'm like, well, it's mostly because of the way she's... Yeah, where women are like, oh, man, that Emma Stone is gorgeous. Why are more men not... like? I tend to feel like it's kind of hard to understand more real-looking women, yes.
Yes. Well, I think also you don't want to feel like I only have to be attractive for the male gaze. How do I just want to look? Take that, America. Fight
Gosh,
the
can
patriarchy.
we cut this from the podcast? Minute. I feel like this. I feel like in so many ways, I almost said the word boobs like 3 times.
Maggie and Perloff after dark.
Before dawn.
Yeah. I thought you guys would jump in and help me a little bit. I have 3 red-blooded American males here, and all of a sudden, Manny's mic doesn't work. Carlos is gone. Bogusch is like just throwing out.
I'm not admitting what I watch at home. You wanted help on that?
I agree with your Margot Robbie take.
Yes. There's something about Bogusch like, now bring back that donut.
NBA last night, you want something? Sure.
Hey,
Okay.
who won that Lakers-Clippers game?
That's a good question. The
Lakers
Lakers won it 106-103, snapping the Clippers' 5-game win streak. R.J. Barrett scored 37 as the Raptors won at the Warriors 133-118. And the Nuggets took care of the Pistons 131-114. Nikola Jokic had 16 assists. And South Dakota State beat Montana 23-3 in Frisco, Texas to win their second FCS title in a row. The Jackrabbits have won 29 consecutive games overall. Guys, back to you.
This is the meanest thing I'll ever say. I am. Our producer EJ is sick, not here today, and I feel terrible. And I hope he's okay and feels better soon. But oh my gosh, I'm so relieved I don't have to hear about the Knicks beating the Sixers on Friday night.
I think you're the one who actually got EJ sick. Like somehow you infiltrated.
Yeah,
Andrew, do you not see me? I'm dressed like Madison Square Garden threw
you
up
are
on me.
so much less obnoxious of a Knicks fan than EJ.
It's because you don't follow me on Twitter.
Oh,
Which you should start doing immediately.
Now I will definitely not follow. In fact, I'll block you.
Honestly,
now that
Manny,
I understand.
you do look like you'd be shooting T-shirts out of a cannon.
That's where he got that jersey.
That's where I got my sweatpants. You guys haven't seen my sweatpants yet.
You have on Knicks sweatpants too?
Yes, sir.
Socks?
No.
Do the Knicks sweatpants rip off so you can run in?
They're tearaways?
No, they're not tearaways. And if these rip, I will be very heartbroken. So please don't touch my pants.
Bogusch, thank
Oh my
you.
gosh, another thing to hit the dump button on.
Another rule.
Manny saying, please don't touch my pants.
That's a drop. I'm not dumping that.
855-212-4CBS. What, are you afraid he's going to touch them? They're just going to disintegrate?
I got these at Marshall's for like $8.
I love Marshalls.
Also, they might disintegrate it.
855-212-4CBS. My husband has a Marshall's credit card that he got without me knowing.
Marshall's has a credit card?
Yes. It's amazing. I'm like, that's Bill Kane.
Yeah, that's how the Dodgers keep signing everybody.
Yeah.
Like, Marshalls. Like, I needed some underwear. I'm like, you open up a credit card? 855.
That being said, I'd get a TJ Maxx credit card in a
They're
second.
the same.
They're the same company.
They're the same company?
Uh-huh.
So he's got a Marshall's /
TJ
Max to the minimum?
You can get a Marshall's card and like shop at like 4 different brands.
My husband's a Maxinista, and I fully support it. 855-212-4CBS. 855. So many socks
An
in my
enabler.
house. Oh,
Does
man.
he come into the house and say, don't touch my pants?
No, something else I was going to say that was going to do full circle on the porn conversation, but I'm not going to do it. 855-212-4227. Okay, we mentioned it. Bogusch mentioned it. You do have the first firing of Black Monday. We've got that to get to. And also, could we have a surprise coaching change with one stalwart possibly saying goodbye? We'll get to all of that. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
Why'd I ask?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. What a wild weekend. Saturday was kind of crazy because you had the Colts and Texans. That could not have been a closer game.
Yep.
I love Shane Steichen, former Eagles offense coordinator. The Eagles miss him. I think he screwed up the end of that game to allow the Texans to get to the playoffs and be the sort of feel-good story. C.J. Stroud, I think probably will win Rookie of the Year. He's going up against Puka Nacua, but he is the story of the year. Oh, my God, he's so poised for a rookie.
Okay, but let's go pause on the Colts just for a moment because this is one of the only times we'll get to post-mortem on them. Why aren't you running Jonathan Taylor at the end of that game?
Absolutely.
That is crazy to me. Now, on the flip side, you also got hosed, which is weird because you're at home, which was Texans player lined up in the neutral zone. is clear as day, as clear as Kadarius Toney when he got called for it when the Chiefs were playing the Bills a couple weeks ago and everyone lambasted Kadarius Toney. I mean, that should have been a first down for the Colts, and they probably would have scored on that drive. I think they would have scored on that drive. But why Shane Steichen was not running the ball when Jonathan Taylor was blowing the doors off of them all night? I do not understand it. And same thing, if I can just pivot for a second, I don't understand what happened at the end of the Jags games. Let's stay with the AFC South. At the end of the Jags game, and Trevor Lawrence was super hurt. Everything's wrong. He's got a knee problem. He's got a shoulder problem. He's got a concussion. It's the definition of banged up. And he played badly. But you have a chance to score and tie that game yesterday against the Titans. And you have a 2nd and 2, a 3rd and 2, and a 4th and 2, and you don't run the ball on any of those.
See, I saw you tweet that. I do not agree with that.
Trevor
What's a higher
Lawrence has been
percentage?
bad.
Well, yeah, but on 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, you know, the Jags are the king of negative runs. I'm not going to the run game with that team at all.
Dude, 2nd and 2. Trevor Lawrence runs the ball on first down to pick up 8 yards.
Yeah, you honestly think that you've watched that team all year. They love to have a -5 run. There's no way you're running the ball. First of all, the clock is also a factor too. You have a minute 50 left. I'm
pick up the first down and spike the ball.
You can't have a 2-yard pass. First of all, what I don't understand.
No, they can't have a 2-yard pass because they got stopped on 3 straight downs.
I don't know.
And
You
lost
know
the
that
game.
now. To me, that is not a run situation. Most teams would pass the ball in that situation. That in today's NFL, 4th and 2 on a key, gotta have it. You're not running the ball.
But what about 2nd and 2? What about 3rd and 2? Like if you know you're in 4-down territory, so 3rd down isn't what 3rd down is, right? Like you have all 4 plays.
And you should be able to complete a 2-yard pass with Trevor Lawrence, and they weren't even close, which is a funny thing.
I know they're going for deep shots. They're going for these high degree of difficulty plays. I just did not understand it. So those are two sort of coaching situations.
Trevor Lawrence, injury or not injury, he missed a wide open Calvin Ridley for what could have been a go ahead or at least a tying touchdown. They were down by 8. They would have had to hit the 2-point. So there was a lot of missed throws by Trevor Lawrence. Definitely hurt. Can we talk about that? That Jags defense just got mowed over by an old Derrick Henry. I think the defense takes a lot of blame there too. Wait, how do we start this? The
Browns and the Texans.
The Texans and the Colts. Here's one thing about the Texans. As exciting as they are, man, their offense is a little bit boring. Hand it off on first down for 1 yard every time and hope C.J. Stroud makes a great play.
It's
is that
effective.
a formula?
I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I think Cleveland's defense is going to feast on that.
Okay,
I'm
but
curious.
they still have Nico Collins, who now is back and is great. So they don't have Tank Dell, but they still have one really good receiving option.
Yeah, I would mix it up against Cleveland because Cleveland will come after you.
Let's quickly hit Thomas, who is in Cleveland. Hey,
My
Thomas.
only worry is that
How you doing?
Houston has tall receivers.
Yeah.
And honestly, Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, they're going to eat CJ alive. We know this. But the truth is, Houston has tall receivers. And the Browns, they've failed against that. And if CJ slings the ball, we're going to have trouble. We're going to have trouble.
Well, Thomas, I think you mentioned it there, and thank you for the phone call, and good luck to your Browns. You got to get home on Stroud. And he's mobile, and he's not mobile, like he's not a running quarterback, but he is elusive in the pocket, and it's going to be tough, but you've got to – that's the key to this whole thing.
Well, right. The one team that we know can get home is the Browns. I think the key is the Texans can't go to 3rd and 8 consistently like they did against the Colts. They have to really help out Stroud here. Yeah, this is a great game. You're right. I can't believe it's Saturday at 4:30.
I was shocked.
Well, come on, listen. Joe Flacco against the Texans. You're really shocked? As Bogusch says, the Texans are grandfathered into this spot. They always play the first playoff game.
It should be your Eagles and the Bucks who should be in that early
At least there's
game.
history. Both teams have been in the Super Bowl in the last 3 years.
And we're far away from that. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys next. Don't move. It's Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's a violin prodigy. Her full name is Maggie the Stallion. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
The playoff picture is set in the NFL. Hey, welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. So glad to have you. And the winners of the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys, with a resounding 38-10 win over the Washington Commanders. It was touch and go for a little bit, and then Dallas completely took off. And this was almost like a perfect Prescott game. I know he had one interception, but 31 for 36, 279, 4 touchdowns. Did have the one pick, did not take a sack in this game. Pretty amazing stuff. And CeeDee Lamb, 13 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. You can't be feeling any better if you're the Dallas Cowboys heading into the postseason. You have the second seed, and you will host the Green Bay Packers. Quite frankly, a team that is a great story. We'll talk about the Packers, but I think they're probably a little overmatched in this game.
The irony of Carson Wentz, former Eagles quarterback, leading the Rams back to beat the Niners on Sunday, late afternoon, meaning that the Cowboys get a much easier matchup against the Packers. And if the Rams had lost the Niners, then the Rams would have had to go to Dallas, and that's going to be a battle. We might see it in the second round because the Rams, I think, have a great chance of beating the Lions. But the Packers' defense is so bad. Here's my take on the Cowboys. They're looking really good, but we've seen this movie before. 12-5 for the third straight season. I think in the playoffs, you're going to get the best effort of the opposing coaching staffs. And how do you stop the Cowboys? They are so reliant on CeeDee Lamb. I look at his stats now. CeeDee has 1,749 receiving yards. The next closest receiver is Brandon Cooks, 657 yards. Right. That's over 1,000-yard difference. Why are you not double-teaming CeeDee Lamb on every play? I see so many plays where the opposing defense is in zone and nobody's on him. Just run around after the CeeDee. Maybe that's not as easy to do as I'm saying it is. But if you stop CeeDee Lamb, who's really terrifying you?
Okay, but don't you think that's the game plan for a lot of these defenses?
No, I watch. Because I never see CeeDee Lamb beating a guy one-on-one. I always see him wide open in space.
Well, that might just be because CeeDee Lamb is having an all-time moment right now where his own teammate Micah Parsons says he's the best wide receiver in the league. And, he might have a case for it. I still think Tyreek Hill. I still think, that Justin Jefferson, stuff like that. But, CeeDee Lamb is definitely a top 5, if not top 3.
100%. But the same thing with Tyreek Hill. Why is Tyreek Hill last night against the Bills? Why does he not have a man on him? Why are you letting him into a pocket of his own? Same thing with CeeDee Lamb. I think
you notice what the Bills did at the end of the game. And if you didn't stay up for that game, it was a wild one where the Bills end up winning. They win the AFC East, and Miami is now the 6th seed, has to go to Kansas City. At the end of the game, in a gotta-have-it drive for the Miami Dolphins, what happened? The Bills were all over Tyreek Hill. And
absolutely.
He dropped a ball and then basically had a catchable one that he didn't get to.
Well, and they called pass interference on one, which he actually dropped as well, which I was surprised. But that's what I think is going to happen. The Niners, if the Cowboys do advance the NFC title game and say the Niners are there, I think the Niners are going to make the Cowboys beat them without CeeDee Lamb. So that means Tony Pollard, Jake Ferguson, maybe Brandon Cooks, and a lot more pressure on Dak. Because right now, this is what happened to the Cowboys last year. Remember in the playoffs, there was only one person that Dak wanted to throw the ball to. If it wasn't CD, he would either throw it out of bounds or throw it somewhere else because he was afraid of his other receivers. I just worry it's so similar to last year. Maybe they get over the top this year, but I can't. Just history shows us this is the same Cowboys team. What's different?
Well, there is a different feel to it, to me. I understand they got the doors blown off them by San Francisco, and that feels the same. I just find it very hard to believe that you're going to have one team beat another team 4 times in a row. And those have been really close games in the playoffs. It's not like those games have been blowouts. Those have been one-score games, whether it was in Dallas, whether it was in San Francisco. They've been one-score games. And again, I think that if you were able to stop CeeDee Lamb, then you would. And even if they don't you think that Dak could go to Brandon Cooks? He could go to Jake Ferguson. They can't.
Well, that's what I wonder.
Pollard got back on track. I know yesterday the Washington defenses waved the white flag long ago, but 17 carries, 70 yards for Tony Pollard. I know that throughout the season he wasn't great as being the workhorse, but now you're talking about you just got to survive and win a game.
Yeah, but if there's no margin for error, you're going against San Francisco and you got to go score for score. It does make me nervous. Hey, that being said, we're punching both teams' tickets a little bit in advance because I think I'm not sure anyone's going to be. The Niners have a much easier path. They'll get the winner of the Bucs-Eagles game. They have a great path to the NFC title game. The Cowboys will have the Lions or the Rams. That's a much tougher assignment.
It is. We'll talk about that Lions-Rams games. There's a lot of cool stories and connections, obviously, because those teams made it a huge blockbuster trade a couple of years ago. But I also think there's a part of this which is, yes, on the offensive side, like you have to still find ways to get CeeDee Lamb open, which credit to Mike McCarthy. They have found ways to get him open, but it's going to come down to the defense, isn't it? I mean, this Cowboys defense, when you're playing against the 49ers, like this is not going to be a shootout game. They never have been in the playoffs. It's always been relatively low-scoring games like 23-19 and stuff like that. These are not shootouts. And so it's really just, can you be economical? Can you find ways to just put drives together, and then you're hoping that your defense is going to also make some plays?
No, I think the defense is so reliant on the offense, because what's the rap on the Cowboys defense? They're a front-running defense. Once you can unleash Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, you're unbelievable. But if you're down a touchdown and you can run at those guys and not let them get into pass rush mode, you're in trouble. So that means Dak Prescott's got to continue to play this well. Remember when Dak was an MVP candidate? I wonder if he finishes top 4 this year. I mean, it's got to be Lamar's won it, then Purdy. Is Dak the third highest candidate in the NFL MVP race this year? It's pretty unbelievable.
Well, the back-to-back losses at the Bills, at the Dolphins, I mean, especially that Bills game, that was a high-profile game. They really no-showed. And then you lose at Miami. That was a really close game, though, and I think the Cowboys actually took a lot of moral victories out of it. I think the biggest thing that's hurting Dak's MVP candidacy is the home road splits.
Yeah.
You're not the same guy.
But I think he finishes third in voting. That's pretty impressive for a guy that we weren't sure if it was the future of the Cowboys. I mean, maybe it's Josh Allen, but I don't think so. I mean, it's either Dak or Josh Allen or fourth, because you get third. Because 1 is Lamar, 2 is Brock Purdy, and 3, I think, is Dak.
I feel like who cares? I mean, this is Lamar's thing.
I just say, no, I don't think it's a who cares. I think it's a real achievement that Dak Prescott's had this kind of season. 36 touchdowns, 9 picks. Did we see that coming into this year?
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I seem to remember a lot of people ripping Dak in the offseason saying, oh, if this is, if it doesn't work out, it's time to move on.
Well, they kept saying contract extension, then it never came. And then they traded for Trey Lance, and it was obviously that doesn't mean anything, but there were plenty of reasons to speculate about Dak Prescott's future. I think those have basically been put to bed now.
Yeah.
But you still have a situation here at the end of the season.
You're saying if he comes up short, then maybe it's time to revisit this Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott marriage?
Listen, they don't have a choice, the Cowboys. They have to stay with Dak Prescott at this point, but Mike McCarthy, definitely not. I think, if it's embarrassing. And I don't think it's going to be embarrassing, quite frankly. I think that Dallas is going to be fine.
Yeah,
they're going to get to the NFC Championship game, I think. And then we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think it's going to I hate the Cowboys so much, like deep in my bones, but I agree with you. They are in great shape here. I think they're going to have a close divisional round game, and then I think you're right. Just the logic of it's so hard to beat a team again and again that it's going to come down to the end with the Niners Cowboys. And you know how the Cowboys lend themselves to drama? You know there's going to be a bad call or a Dak Prescott fumble or something wild is going to happen. Kind of like your Bills. Like there's going to be drama. There's no straightforward way these playoffs are going to go. It's just not in the cards.
It's impossible. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, so again, that Dallas Cowboys game, that's going to be Sunday afternoon, 4:30 Eastern time. Against the Packers. And, I think if you're a Packer fan today, you've got to be feeling like out of this world.
Oh, you're so right.
I'm speechless. If Jordan Love is really going to be this good, like the Packers just need to be studied, like as the I don't know. Like, they're not the perfect franchise, clearly, because the defensive side of the ball has been at times neglected. Guys are not playing to their draft grade, a lot of those things. But the ability to pick a quarterback, I mean, there are franchises that go 20 years and can't get one of those guys. And if Jordan Love, who it's looking easy out there for him, I mean, it's like pitch and catch, and third downs don't seem like they're even a thing. 3rd and 3, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. He seems like he's in complete control.
Yeah, I mean, it's eerie how much he looks like Rodgers, too. That touchdown that they're pointing out when he threw off his back foot from about the 20-yard line and he found a guy in the end zone. Just pure arm talent. Looks so much like Aaron Rodgers. So smooth. Has every throw in the book. Now, listen, are the Packers a Super Bowl contender like they were with Favre and Rodgers every year? Not yet, but you could certainly see it. People forget, though. Listen, that was Chicago. The Green Bay
Chicago had a lot to play for yesterday.
Yeah, but Green Bay's defense is still terrible. Like, don't they have? Remember a few weeks ago we were talking about firing their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, they let the Carolina Panthers.
So they are. Jordan Love is great, and you do feel optimistic about that. But if you're looking big picture, there is something fundamentally wrong with this defense. And even yesterday, the Bears were moving the ball a lot early on. Then Justin Fields got hurt. Clearly, probably had a concussion. We can get to that later. But I think the Packers feel great. There's no expectations. If they happen to win a playoff game, I think people will be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, they have the next guy. It's unbelievable.
It's unreal.
Credit their front office for knowing what they're doing.
And this is going to be like the story going into next year, about Jordan Love and what is his ceiling and all of that. And you're right. They should be playing pretty loose right now. There can't be a lot of pressure on them going into this game against Dallas. Again, they're 7.5 points, 7-point underdogs in this game. So healthy underdogs, but still. And I'll say that and I'll give the Packers a compliment. And then my next breath, if you don't fire the defensive coordinator after this season, what are you doing? At this point, you just feel like you're being stubborn because there's clearly something wrong here, because even on the offensive side, where you have all these young receivers, Perloff, they've grown, they developed, they've gotten so much better. On the defensive side, it still feels like you're waiting for, not Rashawn Gary and some of the other guys, but like you're still waiting for leaps and bounds to happen on the defensive ends.
Yeah, it's different when Aaron Rodgers is at the end of his career winning MVPs and your defense is letting you go. This is a good opportunity because let a new defense coordinator come in here and grow with the team. Again, I don't think you're upset about that today if you're a Packers fan. You can't say, oh, we're blowing an opportunity this year, because I don't think they have the talent to win a Super Bowl. So this is good. Clean break with the defense. You're going to get a new guy in there. We've seen a lot of really excellent jobs around the NFL this year on defense. Look at it, say, like what Antonio Pierce is doing in Vegas. Right. Bring that guy in or Vance Joseph. There's a lot of good defensive coordinators out there. So I think that's almost another reason to be hopeful, because you have all this talent on defense. Put that together and grow that with a new coach and Jordan Love. And, man, I'm thinking about the Packers next year for my picks.
I know that Aaron Rodgers got hurt on the 4th play of the season.
Yeah.
He's been out the whole year. The fact that the Packers make the playoffs and he doesn't even come close. He couldn't. He had nothing. He had no impact on the season whatsoever outside of a couple controversial McAfee appearances. But is there any part of this? Do you think that Packer fans have a right to be,
Oh, they feel great
ecstatic
about this.
Or do you try to act like you've been there before?
Oh, no. They love every second of this. To see Rodgers on the bench, unfortunately. One thing Rodgers did do to sort of take some of the steam out of this argument, he has been super pro Jordan Love and super pro Packers. He's been kind of rooting for them.
No, and also not just that. Do you notice this is a Rodgers thing? Yeah. I'm texting with Jordan.
Yeah, he's taking credit for them.
He's taking credit a little for
so
it.
To
Rodgers is a maniac.
Rodgers pretty savvy, actually, is sort of getting in on that Packers bandwagon. So it feels a little less painful. The Jets is their own set of misery.
Yeah. They won yesterday and finally ended their streak of futility against the Patriots.
But the Jets fans, I don't think care that the Packers are winning. I do think the Packers fans love this. We have a good buddy, Aaron Nagler, who covers the Packers, and all season long he's been like, "Oh, this is so sweet to see Rodgers doing nothing." Because
the organization gets to take a victory lap, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rodgers. It was also a win-win because Rodgers wanted nothing to do with these young receivers. But
turns out they're really good.
Well, Jordan Love had been practicing with them, and he knows them much better. He's coming up with them, and they're really good. Trust me. Jaden Reed's amazing. I don't know if all of them are that good. Is that team around Jordan Love? They're the youngest playoff team. Check this. I think they might be the youngest playoff team ever.
They're the youngest receiver room in the NFL.
I think they might be the youngest playoff team in a recent NFL history of all time. Like they're just beginning this.
Backing up the fellas.
That is scary. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227.
Don't be a freaking weirdo.
We get to your phone call. See you guys on the phones. We have our Super Wild Card weekend now. It is set, yes.
Sorry, they're the youngest team since the 1974 Buffalo Bills to make the playoffs, 25.58. So this is nothing but upside here.
Amazing. 855-212-4227. Coming up, you got a major question mark at quarterback for one playoff team. What will they do? Got that for you in a minute. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, ready? This is Andrew Perloff with an Odyssey Sports Minute. This is Andrew Perloff with a CBS Sports Minute. The Chicago Bears are facing the NFL's most interesting... The Chicago Bears are facing the NFL's most interesting offseason. They like quarterback Justin Fields, but they have the number one pick, and the temptation to draft a new quarterback has to be strong. Here's the concern. Can anyone play that position wearing a Bears jersey? Quarterbacks in Chicago are cursed. Yes, Jim McMahon was good, but look at his numbers. He wasn't that good. Doesn't matter where they draft quarterbacks, they don't work out. The number one prospect, Caleb Williams, knows this. The number one prospect, Caleb Williams, definitely knows this. Will he want to even go there? Bears fans, get ready. It's going to be an exciting few months in Chicago. I'm Andrew Perloff.
3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Maggie, remember last week when I said that I was really excited to see Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold go head-to-head?
I think you said that was going to be the best quarterback battle of the weekend.
Yes, so I was really excited about it. I watched about 5 minutes of that game. I'm like, oh, this is way more boring than I thought it could possibly be. But then out of nowhere, Carson Wentz puts the whole team on his back and wins the game for the Rams. I don't think it meant anything, but it did change the seeding significantly. Sam Darnold was as meh as humanly possible for the Niners, but that dude could still win a playoff game for that team.
Yes.
I'm not backing off that. Carson Wentz looks so much better than anybody the Jets put out there. How he wasn't on a roster all year, he must be a real jerk in the locker room because
He must
he's
be a
about
really insufferable person.
He sure looks like one of the more talented quarterbacks in the NFL. So anyway, here come the Rams.
And he got sort of manhandled a little bit in that game too.
He carried the ball 16 times.
I know.
Some
physical yards.
At the end, he got a couple big hits, but I tell you, he was running fearlessly. He's like, this is my chance to play. I'm going to take every risk.
Well, George is our resident LA Rams fan and friend of the show. Good morning, George. You got to be thrilled.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, I'm very pleased with the Rams. They shut out the 49ers second half. I realize it's backups, but still, it's not easy to do in San Francisco. And this team is a very interesting team because they finally got the monkey off their back with McVay and Shanahan as far as 5 years not beating them. And Carson Wentz looked very good. And McVay is definitely a quarterback whisperer, and he's just one of those guys that understands offenses. And sorry, Perloff, but Philadelphia looked terrible. And I'm not trying to be rude, but they got issues, man.
No, that's being kind. They looked like hot garbage. George, thank you for the phone call. We'll get to the Eagles in a second, but I think the one thing that the Carson Wentz thing showed you yesterday, and again, it was against the 49ers backups, I get that, but if anything were to happen to Stafford, maybe you think you still have a shot with Carson Wentz. It doesn't mean you're automatically going to lose the game if Matthew Stafford takes a big hit.
Absolutely. And Wentz, especially if he's going to sell out and run the ball, I mean, Wentz would definitely get hurt if he kept running 16 times a game. The Rams' defensive line is what impresses me, and I think the Cowboys, again, I think they're really lucky the Cowboys don't have to deal with that in the first round because I think the Rams are a very dangerous team in the NFC.
Okay, so the Rams-Lions are one, if you just look at all of the, crazy stories of Super Wildcard weekends, you got the Rams and the Lions who made this massive trade with each other. Rams have already won a Super Bowl. They traded your quarterbacks for each other and picks and players, all of that. The Browns and the Texans similarly made a massive trade with each other, the Deshaun Watson trade, and now they are going to meet in the first round of the playoffs with no Deshaun Watson because he had a season-ending injury weeks ago, which is why Joe Flacco's there in the first place. The Steelers and the Bills, the two head coaches were college roommates with each other. I mean, how crazy is that? And not like college roommates at Alabama. They were at, a small St. William and
Mary in Williams. I was there this summer, Williamsburg, Virginia.
Beautiful place. You have the Dolphins and the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, obviously. You get that return. They played each other earlier in the season, but it was in Germany. So take what you will from that. Packers, Cowboys. I mean, how much history is between those two teams?
Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy, of course, and how many amazing games. And then I guess Eagles, Bucks. You played them 2 years ago. I don't know. Eagles, Bucks. I don't have a lot for you.
The
for
NFL
Eagles,
writers can't get it right every single game.
Yeah, this is the leftovers. Eagles, Bucks.
Yeah.
Pretty
Eagles,
cool, though.
Bucks. Oh, 2003 NFL title game. Rondé Barber.
Oh, how could we all forget about that?
Close down the vet.
Well, Rondé Barber made the Hall of Fame, and they kept showing that stupid play again and again and again last year.
I was actually 5 years old that year.
Thank you, Manny.
Manny's being a jerk this morning.
Yeah, wow, man, are you in a bad mood?
We got to get it a little later. Tiki made some news. Tiki was in the middle of the brouhaha last night with the Saints and the Falcons.
Oh my gosh, that Saints-Falcons.
Yeah.
Should we just talk about that? I'm glad we're all in here together. I'm glad Bogusch is in here because let's talk about what happened, unless you were about to do this in your update.
Not in this one.
Okay,
no.
So what happens at the end of the game? The Saints are blowing the doors off the Falcons, right? And the Saints need this because if somehow the Bucs had lost to the Carolina Panthers, which was a one-score game for most of that affair, they would step in and they would have made the playoffs. So, end of the game, Saints literally in victory formation at the 2-yard line, the 1-yard line of the Falcons. And they, instead of going into victory formation, they actually ran a play to get Jamal Williams a touchdown, right?
They actually ran a play out of victory formation.
Yes.
But it's even better than
It was
that.
like a fake
Guess who
victory
was in
formation.
charge of audibly out of that victory formation?
Well, we have some sound.
Oh,
Here is Jameis Winston, who was quarterbacking the team at the time because it was such a blowout. He was in for Derek Carr on why they decided to do a touchdown run out of victory formation.
Well, I apologize to DA because the play was victory. But I also explained to DA that it was a team decision. And I think when you have a team morale, and I asked the guys, I said, guys, like, what do you want to do? We know how much Jamal means to this team, and I understood from DA's perspective. So I give him that. But DA didn't condone that at all. You know, he didn't. However, we decided as a team to do it, and man, we got an interception to the 1-yard line. You know, like. So if we would have scored, would it still would have been disrespectful?
Yes.
Honestly, I hate to say I hate to use this kind of language, but it's the first word that came to my mind is that Jameis Winston sounds like the world's biggest jackass in that clip. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're somebody who has no guarantees about future employment anywhere. Why would you say you're openly defying the head coach? I know teammates love him, and I get it, but that to me sounds ridiculous. And here's Dennis Allen, who was apologizing for this play after the game.
And I'm going to start off by apologizing to Arthur Smith and the Falcons. That was not a play that we intended to run down there to finish out that game. That's not who we are. That's not how we operate. We should have taken a knee. So I want to apologize to them. Because look, we're all like, we got a good rivalry, and it's a heated rivalry. But there's a way we go about doing our business, and I wasn't happy about that.
Okay, so Dennis Allen, his players basically mutinied against him. I know he's the defensive coordinator, not the offensive coordinator, but still, he's the head coach, and the defense or the team mutinied against him. So this is the rare occurrence where I think the player's in the wrong, Jameis Winston and the players for running that play, and I think the coach is in the wrong because once your players do it, don't you have to back them up?
Well,
do you want to openly say they defied me and like they're not listening to a word I say?
Well, I don't think it's a mutiny because a mutiny implies that you have to lose at a mutiny. You can't be. You're up 48-17. It's hardly a mutiny.
Okay, well, I'm saying about defying the play call.
Defy him in a fun, meaningless way. And this thing about Jameis is exactly who Jameis Winston is here. And you know exactly what you're getting. And you're getting a fun-loving dude who's amazing in the post-game locker room. So this is what Jameis is, and God bless him. He is fun to watch, as weird as he is. No, I don't. Honestly, I think the Saints need to move on from Dennis Allen in a huge way. They're stuck in limbo. I don't think he's a great coach by any means.
Well, the players aren't listening to him now
it's
either.
not because of this. It's not. It has nothing to do with this. It was an emotional game. It was a blowout. Honestly, I think Dennis Allen might have saved his job, and I think that's not good for Saints fans because they're stuck around 500. It has nothing to do with this. And I kind of agree with Arthur Smith has no right to come out there cursing. Tiki Barber, the reason I mentioned him, he said, this is football. You can do whatever you want.
Right. So Arthur Smith got the head coach of the Falcons, who's since been fired this morning in the first casualty of Black Monday early this morning. He was livid at Dennis Allen. And they come to the midfield for the handshake, and Dennis Allen, the first thing he does, you can see him sort of say, like, hey, I'm sorry. And Smith wants none of it. He's like yelling and screaming. And
he's yelling before he gets to Dennis Allen.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a great look for him. They just lost 48-17. you kind of like you got your butt kicked. Like you have to live with it. I understand he was mad, and the fact that he got fired last night did not surprise me.
See, I don't think you have to take it. Just like they can do it in theory, he's allowed to be pissed and yell at them. Like he doesn't have to just eat it because it's a crappy
football,
thing to
man.
do. I know it's football, but it's a crappy thing to do because it's not even. They didn't even run an actual play. Like because they even knew if we don't do victory formation, the silence would call a timeout. That's what we're doing. So they stayed like that to keep that a secret to everybody, and then ran a play to score a touchdown. I didn't love it. It's not why Dennis Allen should be fired, but I thought it was a crappy thing by Jameis and company.
So I'm going to disagree with you. I think this is the rare thing where everybody looks bad. I think that the players look bad for defying the coach when they're in victory formation. I think the coach of the Saints looks bad because then he didn't back up the players. I think Arthur Smith looks bad because all is fair in love and war and division battles. Like, I'm sorry, you're allowed to run up the score on a division rival. In professional football, you're allowed to run up the score anyway. We know they do it in college. That's style points, to impress the committee or whatever. I think you have the right to score. You have the right to name the number if your opponent's going to let you.
But I think there's a difference between playing the game out and lining up in the game is over, we're giving up thing, and then running a play to be a jerk. That's not
totally
the same thing as just playing.
I agree with you. That's totally
That's
shady.
why this is different yesterday.
But at the same time, that was a crappy end for the Saints to do that.
Yeah.
Literally pull out of victory formation. It's not even like tush push and you pull out and do something. It's victory formation, but again, it's professional football.
Yeah. You lost and you got to take it. I think the Saints locker room weirdly supports Dennis Allen. The fact that I don't think Jameis is on the same bandwidth as anybody else. Jameis is his own island.
Yeah.
Just because Jameis doesn't listen to you doesn't mean that the rest of the team isn't listening to you. It does feel like
but they all ran that play.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think there's any defiance towards that. That to me, it wasn't like an act of mutiny or anything that meant anything beyond just that one play. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it. And also, you can't avoid the fact Derek Carr got red hot at the end of the season. Once again, that's the thing. I'm actually sad. This Saints team could not get out of the NFC South with a high-paid quarterback. There's much bigger problems than whatever happened here.
Well, you're right about that. They got old, they're expensive, and they can't move on from Derek Carr next year. He's still expensive.
But when Carr got healthy, I mean, he looked like a top 10 quarterback, though. He looked fire yesterday. And Taysom Hill is a force as well.
I'm curious how, maybe this is a poll question, Carlos, at Maggie and Pearl, just sort of who was in the right, who was in the wrong here? I mean, again, Arthur Smith has been fired already this morning, so that shows you what the Falcons think of him.
It seems like Dennis Allen's going to keep his job, which is strange to me. I would not necessarily.
Actually.
Yeah.
I'm all about if the Saints want to move on from Dennis Allen. That was a completely winnable division. And you talked about how Dennis Allen didn't lose the locker room. I don't think you can ever lose it if you never had it. These guys openly violated a play call on a national TV. Well, not national TV, but the victory formation is supposed to be take the knee. And not only Winston make the call, the entire offense is cool with it. They are not listening to him at all.
Yeah.
No. Just be Jameis Winston wasn't listening. You don't think Derek Carr listened to him?
But do you think Jameis Winston has mind powers over the entire offensive line and everybody else? 11 guys were in on it that they ran the play.
It's scrub time. It was backups in there, I assume, at that point. It wasn't like the A team. I don't think Derek Carr is defying Dennis Allen in any meaningful way. I mean,
he screams at him on the sideline.
That team won 4 of the last 5. I think Derek Carr probably might win Offensive Player of the Month. He was really hot. So I don't know if you're the Saints. I think he keeps his job. And this is Jameis. Don't you guys see Jameis was the ringleader of this whole crazy thing?
Well, he said he talked to the team and they decided they wanted to do this. I mean, here's the other thing. They got hot. Congratulations to you. You beat the Panthers, the Giants. You lost to the Rams. You beat the Buccaneers and then the Falcons. This is not exactly murderer's row. This was the same thing I said about the Chicago Bears. Like, they're the hottest team. It's like besides the Lions, who do they beat?
Yeah, I think if Carr was healthy all year, then they easily would have made the playoffs. But he was not himself for a big chunk of this. I mean, exactly. They're in limbo. They're going to be a 9-win team till the end of time with Dennis Allen.
That whole division.
Whole division. Yeah, somebody do something radical. Carolina did. I guess they're the worst team ever.
How radical do you want to be? That's
beyond
the bar.
belief, they're the worst
But
team.
if you are going to be so bad, keep your draft pick. That's one thing. Like, don't be the worst team in the history of football and not have your draft pick.
It's so funny. I feel like we literally watched Browns and Lions have winless seasons, and I've never felt worse about a team than the Carolina Panthers.
Well, did you read the stat that they're the first team ever to never run a play with the lead in the fourth quarter of any game for the entire year? Because their 2 wins were on go-ahead game-ending field goals. They never ran a play with more points than the other guy in the fourth quarter in 17 games.
Oh, man. How about DJ Chark fumbling it out of the end zone yesterday? That was classic.
What else we got, Bogusch?
Well, yesterday began with the possibility of missing the playoffs altogether out there. Then the Jaguars lost in Tennessee, so the Bills had their spot, so only the AFC East was up for grabs last night in Miami.
Jake Bailey punts this one away. It's a wobbler, backing Hardy up to his own 5. Gets to the 10, to the 15, through a hole to the 20, 25, 30. He could go 50, 40. They're not going to get him. Deontay Hardy going the distance for the touchdown. And we're an extra point away from a tie ball game.
That's Bills radio. A 96-yard punt return touchdown from Deontay Hardy early fourth quarter on Sunday Night Football. The extra point did tie the game. Then Josh Allen threw a 5-yard touchdown pass to have confirmed Dawson Knox a few minutes later. Then Tua threw his second pick of the night with 1:13 left, and the Bills won the game and the division 21-14. Tua and friends win just twice in the last 5 weeks.
No one's going to feel sorry for us. There's a lot of other teams that have injuries that are going through some tough deals. So we're not making any excuses. No one's going to make any excuses for us. We just got to come back next week and be ready.
Don't worry. No one was feeling bad for anybody at all. I mean, were they? You feel bad about the injuries, but got it, Tua. Yeah.
Well, it is pretty amazing that Tua stayed healthy and the rest of the team did not.
The irony of that.
Who would have ever saw that coming? He led the league in passing yards. Now you're in a weird spot. Do you pay that guy? I mean, we can break that down all off season, but you had a healthy Tua all year long. Unfortunately, nobody else. How much did they miss Jalen Waddle last night? It's just unbelievable.
Okay, but he'll be back for the game against the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But no one's healthy to go get Patrick Mahomes.
No.
I mean, they're just dropping. One of the guys that they mentioned after Andrew Van Ginkel got hurt on this punt return touchdown.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
He was like the backup pass rusher, and it was basically down to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on special teams,
He got
blew out
hurt.
his leg. They're a mess.
I think it's because he ran into his own guy.
No, I think he got hurt first and then ran into a guy, and then that sprung Hardy. Bad chain of events. So Miami, they're the 6th seed. They got to play in KC Saturday night. The Bills will host the Steelers in Sunday afternoon's first game. That Jaguar loss gave the AFC South to the Texans. They'll host the Browns 4:30 Eastern Saturday. The Cowboys are NFC East champs after a 38-10 rout of the Commanders in Washington. Dallas will host Green Bay Sunday afternoon, while the Eagles have to go to Tampa Bay Monday night. Philly's regular season ending with a 27-10 dud at the Giants, and A.J. Brown suffered a reported non-ACL knee injury. Those Bucs, NFC South champs after a 9-0 win in Carolina. I believe making the playoffs gets Baker Mayfield a $1 million bonus. J.J. Watt says T.J. Watt suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain Saturday in Baltimore. That is, quote, best case scenario. J.J. also posting his brother needs a few weeks of rest and recovery, but again, they play in Buffalo Sunday afternoon. Away from the postseason, Arthur Smith is out in Atlanta after 3 years. At least he was consistent. 3 seasons, 3 7-10 records. There was NBA action last night. The Pelicans built a 50-point lead in Sacramento before winning 133-100. They've won 6 in a row on the road. Warriors guard Chris Paul broke a bone in his left hand Friday. Surgery coming this week. He's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. On ice, the Jets extended their point streak, to 12 games, a 6-2 win in Arizona. They have an NHL high 56 points altogether. And the Dodgers, once again, not really paying a free agent. Outfielder Teoscar Hernandez reportedly gets a 1-year deal worth $23.5 million, but $8.5 million will not be paid until 2030 through 39. So he's going to get much smaller checks after Shohei does, but similar math here, more in line with what normally happens. You get some money now and then some money later.
Yeah, it's like a little over 30% or something of his contract is going to be deferred. I mean, you have to do it now. You've promised Shohei. He deferred all of his contract. You've got to spend. So they get Teoscar Hernandez, too. I don't know why Hernandez signed a 1-year deal.
Well, the last thing I saw yesterday morning was the Dodgers had the best chance at him because they were willing to do multi-years, which nobody else really wanted to do, and then he does 1 in 23.
All right.
Yeah.
Bogusch, thank you. Why was Arthur Smith fired and not the general manager along with him?
I don't know.
Of
Do
the
you
Atlanta
know the
Falcons?
general manager?
Yeah, Terry Fontenot.
Oh,
I know
okay.
his name. But, I don't understand. We're talking about a guy who was taken with your first-round pick, Bijan Robinson last year, Drake London the year before, Kyle Pitts the year before. These are all top 10 picks, and your offense is awful.
Wow, it's quarterback.
You never found a quarterback.
Bijan's awesome. I think London's awesome. Kyle Pitts is not working at all. But honestly, brings up an interesting question. Do you want to coach that team if you bring in a quarterback there? There's a lot of talent around.
Yeah, but isn't that what? Shouldn't the general manager have put them in a better spot with quarterbacks going into this year?
Well, Arthur Smith also didn't know how to utilize him properly. He wasn't giving Bijan the ball at all. If you look at their rookie records, Bijan would have crushed it. Tyler Algier got over 1,000 yards last season.
Yeah.
But Bijan gets 900. But the last half of the season, he would refuse to run him out. He was giving carries to Cordell Patterson.
I know, but isn't that ironic because he's the guy who had such success with the Titans where their offense was all predicated on Derrick Henry?
Yeah, it's like he's stubborn to show that I can win without using my playmakers, but you can't.
What's the point of that?
Well, I think he wants to recreate something that like a slow pace offense that he had in Tennessee. Bijan did have a sweet touchdown yesterday, by the way. But you didn't have a quarterback. Desmond Ridder actually looked pretty okay yesterday. But
he's been benched 4 different times this year.
Exactly.
How many times was Heineke going to come off the bench?
I think it's a great experiment. It proves it doesn't matter how many skill position players you have. If you don't have a good quarterback, then you really can't do anything.
And they're picking 8th.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, that could be
They'll take another wide receiver.
That could be juicy. I mean, that could be Bo Nix, maybe Penix if he falls.
I don't think Penix is going to be there. By the way, national championship game tonight, P.S.
Yeah, well, okay. I'll give you Bo Nix to throw in there.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I love me some Bo Nix, but is he going to be the answer there? I don't know. 855-212-4CBS. Bogusch, thank you. 855-212-4227. Coming up, the one person we're expecting to be the breakout star of the postseason. We get to that in a moment. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining.
Will he have gone through that just to be a backup? I'm Maggie Gray. Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Super Wild Card Weekend is set. Black Monday is underway. In short, we got a lot going on. Arthur Smith has already been fired by the Atlanta Falcons. So that's the first one of today. The next domino to fall, who could it be?
Well, I mean, Ron Rivera, nobody has any faith that he's going to be fired. And even Rivera after the game basically said, I'm done here. The future is elsewhere. So that one doesn't even count. Then there's all the question marks. And then who's the next? I would say Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick is the big one. Let's hear from, should we hear from Jay Glazer? Let's hear from Jay Glazer on Belichick's future. He said this on the NFL pregame show.
I don't know what Bill's going to do. I haven't asked him. I only go on facts. Look, you look at the Patriots and you say, okay, if they weren't going to make a move with Bill, wouldn't they have come out by now and said, hey, stop with all this conjecture. He's back. He's our guy. Let's just stop it. Just like the Jets did a couple of weeks ago for Robert Saleh. You've had these teams do that. And that hasn't happened at all. So I think, look, a conversation is going to happen between the Crafts and Bill sometime in the next 24, 48, 72 hours. And, if they just decide to, mutually part ways or fire him, that'll happen quickly. If they try and get a trade, that's going to take a long time. Also, I think it's difficult because Sean Payton last year, I think they gave up a 1 and a 3 or something like that. So I'm sure they're going to want more for Bill Belichick than they have for Sean Payton, right? Yeah. So I think that would really muddy the waters and slow things down. So if they just want a clean break, they should just clean break it now and just move on. But I don't know where he goes from here.
Okay, so that was Jake Glazer on the NFL on Fox podcast, kind of expounding on the future of Bill Belichick.
I heard him say on TV it's over. That he's gone. There's also a lot of reporting that a trade is not going to happen. That teams are not going to they're not going to give up anything for Belichick. Did you hear that reporting?
I did not hear that reporting necessarily. I thought it was a little odd when you say, as Glazer did on the TV side, which is either they're going to fire him or they're going to look for a trade. It's like, all right, well, you just signaled to everybody that you would fire him if you can't find a trade. So if a team really wants Belichick, they might as well just wait until you fire him.
Right. That's exactly sort of what I meant is they've cut the knees out of the trade market by saying they're going to fire him. So why would you trade anything for a guy who's going to be cut loose anyway? I'm not sure if we get into it here, but I do not want Bill Belichick coming to my team. I just do not want that hire.
Let's get into it.
I just think that you saw on Sunday, he is not today's NFL. The offense, I mean, it was snowing.
Wait, you thought Sunday game against the crap Jets in the horrible snowstorm?
Even so, his team did not.
He beat the Jets 15 times in a row before that.
His team did not. It's his last game. You think his team would respond in that situation, and they absolutely did not. I think that his offense, well, it's not really his offense, but his style of football is just not translating anymore. Yeah, he won that way with Tom Brady. I just can't imagine a team that is so excited to bring in Bill Belichick and basically try and win games 17-9. It's not going to happen today in today's football. If you have a great quarterback, why are you going to make him worse by bringing in Bill Belichick?
Okay, but wouldn't you agree that his defensive style is still effective, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
definitely.
You're bringing in Bill Belichick if you're a team because you need either a different type of culture set in which he's the only one who can do it.
Well, where was that culture in New England in the last 2 years?
Okay, well, I mean, here's what I think where they ran into. They missed on the quarterback, right? Hard to replace Tom Brady. It turned out to be, I don't say nearly impossible, but hard to replace him. They went with Cam Newton. That ended up not working. Cam didn't have a lot left in the tank. And then they missed on Mac Jones, who was actually not terrible his rookie year, but then either lost confidence. Bill had some head-scratching coaching decisions in terms of the offensive side of the ball. But that doesn't wipe away. Like 2 years of them being bad doesn't wipe away everything that Belichick had built in New England, which was a modern dynasty where he did set the culture. That was the biggest thing about Brady. Brady would take it, right? Brady would take Bill Belichick's criticism. It was Bill who was setting the agenda and the tone. Brady was just a good soldier and a great player and contributed, of course, to the culture. But like Bill set the tone there. Just because the last 2 years weren't good doesn't mean that all gets washed away.
But think about how Bill Belichick got great. The 3 Super Bowls early on, basically 3 and 4 years, it was special teams and defense. Right. And they were winning kind of narrow. Then they got explosive on offense and didn't really win any Super Bowls that way. And then they won a Super Bowl 13-3, and they won a lot of narrow games, and they just were better on special teams. They were smart on defense. Like, name the team that is going to be able to do that effectively and build a team quick enough for the 72-year-old Bill Belichick to win a Super Bowl. He has to build that culture, and say he goes to the Chargers. Like, there's just not the pieces there to instill that culture.
I think that that's not true. I think that you give Bill Belichick making sure that the offensive side of the ball is taken care of. You probably have to bring in Josh McDaniels or something like that to work with Justin Herbert. And listen, do I think Jim Harbaugh would be a little bit better fit in the Chargers? Probably. But I'm just saying Belichick can still be extremely effective because you have defense that's high-priced and that's top-heavy. But who commands the most respect of any coach in the league, especially on the defensive side? It's going to be Belichick. You don't think that Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa can play for him?
They don't need any coach. They're already coaching. They could be coaches. They're same age as DeMeco Ryans. They don't need coaches. They need to stay healthy, and that never happens.
Okay, does anyone get from the defensive side do more with less than Belichick?
Right. So what is it? That's not the formula with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. They have high-priced talent. I'm not sure I've ever seen Belichick with guys like that. And honestly, it doesn't matter. You know those guys are getting hurt.
Well, that's where you need Belichick, because not only would he be good with the high-priced guys, but he's also good with your depth guys and making sure, the whole do your job, putting dudes in a better position they are than Brandon Staley ever put them in.
Yeah, I just think the Chargers go from a exciting potential, maybe build a Super Bowl champion, kind of like what happened with the Broncos and Sean Payton this year. Like, they'll win a bunch of games, 19-14, and it'll just be ugly to watch.
855-212. We got more on this Belichick situation. He addressed the media this morning. He's going to meet with Robert Kraft, so we've got a lot more to say on Belichick. Of course, it is Black Monday, so we'll keep you updated on all the latest coaching news. Arthur Smith of the Falcons has already been let go. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining.
Yep. This is Andrew Perloff with
He's been on the TB12 method since he was 6. She's on her 3rd scotch. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Super Wild Card Weekend is set. It was a wild finish to the late game last night. If you didn't stay awake or couldn't see it, it was the Buffalo Bills taking out the Miami Dolphins. The Bills now win the AFC East after they were a question mark to make the playoffs at all only a couple weeks ago. It was a brilliant fourth quarter for Buffalo's offense. They were actually really sparked by a special teams punt return for a touchdown from Deontay Hardy. And then the Miami Dolphins offense really disappeared, Perloff. It was shocking to see. I think it was 3 straight punts and then an interception from Tua. At the end, they could not get the ball really to Tyreek Hill. And listen, you'll take it if you're a Buffalo Bill fan like I am, which is a home date now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who kind of feel similarly lucky to be playing in the playoffs at all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, credit Mike Tomlin for getting that team to 10-7, but the Steelers don't feel like they belong there. Honestly, the Dolphins don't feel like they belong there. That game, the Bills used creative ways to even make that close. I mean, they had no trouble moving the ball at any point in the game. There was no pressure on Josh Allen. Dolphins really could get a pass rush going. And without Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle, there was no variety on offense. It was Tyreek Hill or bust. That game, I mean, credit the Bills. I mean, the ability to make these bad teams look better is incredible because it was just a matter of time they were going to beat the Dolphins last night.
Okay, so the Dolphins continue to get hurt. They lost another pass rusher last night, one of their backups. I mean, it was all over the place. Andrew Van Ginkel, one of the linebackers, also got hurt. It was just carnage all over the field. But here's the thing. You are going to presumably get Jalen Waddle back. You will get Mostert back for the wild card game against this Kansas City Chiefs. Now, here's the thing about the Chiefs. Like, I'm not saying that this is not the last we've heard from the Dolphins is how I'd like to put this. Because while it doesn't look great, you're going up against a Kansas City team that whether you put pressure on Patrick Mahomes or not, what's been the issue? Drops. Like, that has nothing to do with how Mahomes is throwing the ball. That's just whether or not these receivers can catch the ball at all.
Yeah, but I actually haven't broken down the film, but I imagine if you give Patrick Mahomes time, it's a really bad situation to be in. Even with the drops are often when Mahomes is running around and makes a play. They're not the easiest. He's throwing 40-yard strikes down the field.
They're every type of
If you
drop.
give Mahomes time, he will make passes and nobody can drop.
Listen, I say that and you say that, but we have not been watching the same Chiefs offense that we are used to seeing. So we'll see what that happens. And, listen, if you're the Miami Dolphins, you paid all this money to get Vic Fangio, who is one of the premier defensive coordinators in this league. He's got a whole coaching tree of other defensive minds. And this is where you have to scheme up something. I mean, there were some questionable moments last night from the Miami Dolphins defense where at times they were kind of like sitting back a little bit, which I really didn't understand with Buffalo. That's not generally, I mean, you can't just blitz Josh Allen. He'll take you apart there.
Oh, I don't know. They were blitzing him pretty effectively early.
But, well, I mean, and he ended up turning the ball over with back-to-back interceptions on 2 different drives, and then he had a fumble in the third quarter.
Actually, all that blitz that worked on Josh Allen a couple times, and then he finally figured it out. That'll work on Mahomes in this case because that's the thing. If you give Mahomes time, then he's not going to have to go to. When Mahomes goes to the hot read, that's when the drops come. When he hits the guy, he doesn't want to throw the ball because he's forced to. So you're right. I think you give the best puncher's chance is Vic Fangio figures out something to go after them. The other thing is the Chiefs are probably, if Waddle's healthy and Mostert's playing, the Chiefs are probably going to try and run the ball on that Miami team and control it and keep it out of Tyreek Hill's hands. It's a new Chiefs. They're a defense run team, which is weird, but I think that's their best chance. If the Chiefs end up playing the Bills, is that a possibility? Yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are
in Buffalo.
Yeah, that would be 2-3. I think you're going to see both teams not wanting to play a high octane offense. I think they're both going to want to control the ball. Your Bills should stop passing and run the ball more.
I mean, Josh Allen carried the ball 16 times yesterday. I don't know what more you want.
Maybe let the running backs carry it a couple more times.
Let James cook.
Yeah, he got his carries in too, but it was he was fine. Unfortunately, dropped basically what might have been kind of an easy touchdown for James Cook.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That's going to be the Saturday night game. That's going to be a Peacock-only game. So that's streaming on Peacock only. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer that it's that game. Because I'm sorry, I think a lot of people could pass on the Bills-Steelers game, and a lot of people could pass on the Eagles-Bucks game. Ironically, our 2 teams.
Yeah.
Those are the bottom 2 interest level. I'm telling you, the Steelers are unwatchable.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, here's the thing about this. Well, we'll get to the Steelers in just a moment. But just to break it down, it is going to be Dolphins Chiefs. That's going to be the 8:00 Eastern game on Saturday. The precursor to that, the appetizer, if you will, it's a good one. Browns are at the Texans. That's going to be just on regular NBC. Cleveland, a 2.5-point road favorite in that game. And then we get to Sunday. It's going to be Bills Steelers as the 1:00 Eastern game. You get Packers Cowboys as the afternoon game, and then Rams Lions as the evening game. Monday, Perloff's Philadelphia Eagles go to take on the Buccaneers. So that's kind of the menu of everything going on this weekend. If I had to give you one breakout star, like who is going to be the person we're talking about Super Wild Card Weekend who just completely, has, I want to say taken over, but somebody who has just announced themselves on the NFL stage in Super Wild Card Weekend, who could it be?
I have to do one.
Yeah.
Damn, because I want to do both these receivers in this game. But I'm going to go with Puka Nacua of the Rams. I obviously want to go Amon-Ra St. Brown as well.
Yes.
But I think the Rams are the sneaky dangerous team here. And who is the guy that America's going to love? Did you see him hugging his mom last week? Or on Sunday, rather. It's Puka Nacua's world, and we just live in it. I think the Rams are going to be the story of the postseason, and Puka is the new face of the league here.
And what do you think the ceiling is on the Rams? NFC Championship game? Super Bowl? What do you think?
I definitely think that they could reach against the Niners in the really, really close NFC title game. I would pick the Niners in that game, but yeah, I think they're going to be. I think they beat the Lions and then they go down to the wire with the Cowboys. I kind of like the Cowboys a little bit in that game, but I think, remember a couple years ago that they basically barely edged the Bucks and then they barely edged the Niners? I think you're going to see close playoff games with that team. I think even though we don't know them like we knew the championship team, I think they're right there at the top of the conference, and they're going to be in super close playoff games. Do you agree?
Yeah, that Rams playoff win, you'll remember, they had to go to Tampa. They had to play Tom Brady. They had a big lead, and Brady almost came back on them at the end of the game.
Kupp had that big catch at the end. That was amazing. Then San Francisco, luckily, they dropped a pick at the end. Otherwise, San Francisco goes to the Super Bowl. I feel like the Rams are back already, and I'm very impressed. Watch them get killed after I say that. But that being said, I love the Lions story. I think the Rams are playing better football.
Now, this one, my breakout star, this is tough for me because I picked this team to go to the Super Bowl, and I still could see them hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. But I think Jordan Love could be the guy. I know right now it's a big spread, 7.5-point favorite. Cowboys healthy favorite in this game, and the Green Bay defense is nothing to write home about. But man, if Jordan Love has a big game, this is probably going to be 40 million people watching this game. It's, a huge stage for him. If somehow they could pull off an upset in Dallas, I know this is going to be extremely tough. You're asking, Dallas is unbeatable at home, like literally.
Wow. This year.
And going back to last year, they were really good at home also.
I mean, generally, though, they've been harmless in home playoff games.
It'd be an interesting one. You got Mike McCarthy facing his former team in the Green Bay Packers. I mean, there's so many storylines throughout all of these games, so many connections. But I think Jordan Love has the ability to be the breakout star in this one. And if you were going to give me a second option, could it be Mason Rudolph? If he plays a good game against the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Bills can lose to anybody right now. They could lose to JV team. They're a 9.5-point favorite. That feels a little bit rich. Mason Rudolph going from third-string quarterback. If they stay with him with the hot hand over Kenny Pickett, who is medically cleared, could Mason Rudolph become the next great story?
Oh, I don't think so. First of all, you need to throw the ball at least once to your best player, George Pickens. I don't think it's Mason Rudolph's fault. I think that team is poorly coached on offense. So how are they? I don't see the scenario. How do they beat the Bills?
The Bills can lose to anyone. Like the Bills can beat themselves. You might not even have to be playing out of your mind to beat them. The Bills will play down to the competition. Good for the Bills last night. They were able to come away with that win. But what was the turning point of the game? It was a special teams punt return for a touchdown. And then, Allen got into a rhythm in the fourth quarter, but that was a one-score game the whole time.
So Josh Allen's going to run. I guess they could make it close, but I don't. The Pittsburgh, the announcers were openly laughing at their offense at the end of the game because they wouldn't throw the ball to George Pickens. Like, they're insane.
It was driving rainstorm. What did they think was going to happen?
You know how many targets he got? 0.
What does it matter? Najee Harris run the ball for 150 yards.
It mattered everything. They easily could have lost that game. They really were not in control of that game at any point.
Wait, you're Mr. Weather.
No, they're the worst.
And this is the one time when the weather actually did matter that you're not willing to say that weather played a factor in that game.
It's a season-long thing. I mean, the Steelers are the worst coach offense, the worst game-planned offense in the league.
Okay, but that game against the Ravens, I don't think you can blame much on the offense. It was literally a nor'easter.
Even that, they still made that game way more interesting than it should have been against the Ravens' backups. But you look, they're better with Mason Rudolph, but they're still kind of anemic. And if you take T.J. Watt out, I mean, Pittsburgh might as well not make the trip.
So Pittsburgh, T.J. Watt has a grade 2 MCL sprain in his knee. I think he's probably going to give it a go. Is there any way that the Steelers say, we're going to go back to Pickett?
No. I mean, Rudolph's won 3 in a row. He was nearly perfect in the snow game. He actually, the problem was he couldn't hold on to the ball, but you're right, you blame the weather on that. But when he threw the ball, I think he had like almost a perfect rating. He's been really, really good. But the thing is, this offense should have been good all year. It should have been good with Pickett, should have been good with Trubisky, should have been good with all these guys. Their play calling so bad. It's all on coaching to me. So I see no chance that he breaks out because it's just an impossible situation. Tomlin, to give him credit to get to the playoffs once again, but he needs to fix that offense so badly because they run the wrong play at the wrong time every time, and they have no explosiveness. If just cover George Pickens a little bit, and they're going to get scared or not throw it to him, I see no chance. I'm sorry, I'm giving a no chance to the Steelers.
So in the 3 games that Mason Rudolph has started and won for the Steelers, 74% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns to no interceptions. He's lost 1 fumble. mean, it's pretty good with a pass rating of 120.
So three touchdowns in 3 games.
Well, no picks, though.
Yeah, I mean, that prorates to 17 touchdowns in a season.
And
which
716 yards.
Yeah, but still, 17. That prorates to 17 touchdowns in a season, which will get you cut.
He's the 3rd string quarterback. This is why I'm asking you if there's any chance they go back to Pickett. And first you're saying absolutely not, and now you're killing the Mason Rudolph numbers.
Yeah, no, I don't think Mason Rudolph is good, but there's no way you go back to Pickett here. What's the sorry, did you say what's the weather forecast?
Cold.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's small hands in that cold weather. No, it's not going to happen.
It's amazing. 855-212-4CBS. There's some things guys will never be able to shake. Okay, breakout stars. Perloff thinks it's going to be Puka Nacua and the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to be Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers quarterback. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. Again, it is Black Monday. We had our first coach sent off on his way. We will get to that in just a moment. Also, another coach, has he done enough to earn the job?
It's funny. We used to be 3 to 6 Eastern.
Yeah.
Now we're 6 to 10 a.m. We would usually know by this Monday show what was going on Black Monday. What's the time? I don't pay this close enough attention. Are we going to have real-time firings? Are we ready to react instantly?
Arthur Smith got fired, at midnight last night? Is that about right?
Yeah, it was 12:02 was when everything started to get tweeted out. So they were just waiting for that official Monday hit to come through.
I was gonna say, was it something about how much they pay him? Why do you have to wait until 12:02? The game ended at was that the afternoon game?
Yeah, it was early. So, by the way, I did say on the production,
sit around, let him clean out his office. I don't get it.
I did say on the production call yesterday that Arthur Smith embarrassed the team yesterday with that tirade at the end of the game, that they were definitely not going to fire him. They weren't going to wait till Monday to fire him. It's funny because 3 weeks ago he got that vote of confidence. It was a no-brainer.
Kiss of death.
Yeah, vote of confidence.
Does
not mean what it used to mean.
But they were playing okay football. But is there anybody who said, they should keep Arthur Smith? It felt like by the end of that game against the Saints, everyone knew he was gone.
And we should say the dust-up was, in case you didn't see it, Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons, former now, did not like that the Saints, Dennis Allen, did not like that the Saints actually ran a play out of victory formation after they were already beating the Falcons by 4 scores. It turns out after the fact that Dennis Allen never called for a play to be run there, and he wanted the team to take a knee in victory formation, and the Saints, led by Jameis Winston, overruled the head coach and ran a play for Jamal Williams to score a touchdown.
I thought that was really weak of Arthur Smith to curse out Dennis Allen in the sense that, it was a tacky play and whatever was happening on the Saints side and mutiny. But Arthur Smith, man, you got to take your medicine. You can't leave that game, your last moment as a Falcons coach, blaming somebody else. You got to be so focused on everything I did wrong in Atlanta. You got to basically, and I think this points to the problems with Arthur Smith. He's got to take full accountability. I'm more mad at myself than I am at Dennis Allen in that situation because I blew this season.
Well, I think that's probably what it is. But
that's what it is, but you can't show it.
No, you can't. And all's fair in professional sports. Here's the thing. You're going to say, you don't you shouldn't blow somebody out or, you should stop scoring. I mean, that's for peewee sports. That's for kids. That's for maybe high school. College, they run up the score all the time. And in the pros, you have the right to do whatever you want until that clock hits 000. I don't get people who are offended by this when it's on the professional level.
Well, Arthur Smith probably should have just walked off and not said anything. Like LeBron, he should have left 2 minutes early and just gone to the locker room. Or like Tom Brady when he loses, famously does not shake it. He should have. He must have known he was on camera. I just don't think that was a calm move. I guess I sympathize with the guy who's about to get fired. But, dude, that's the last image you want as a Falcons coach? That's what everyone's going to remember. Is there any other moment for Arthur Smith?
Well, isn't that saying something, Perloff? It's the last thing you're going to remember, the only thing you're going to remember is some meaningless, coach beef.
Yeah, and by the way,
we should remember you for any kind of play call you've ever made.
And the other thing too is you're calling out Dennis Allen, who has about as little power as any NFL head coach there is. I mean, Dennis Allen is again just like Arthur Smith. There's no way he gets over 9 wins with the Saints. they should fire him and start over. I'm not a fire the coach guy, but where are they going with Dennis Allen?
And the other part, Dennis Allen is approaching him apologizing. Like, he's trying to de-escalate the situation when Arthur Smith is trying to escalate it. It's like, you can't really fight against someone who's telling you, yeah, my bad. Like, I'm sorry, that was wrong. The team did it without me knowing. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Bottom line, embarrassment is what happened with the Atlanta Falcons. And now they need a new head coach. And I got to tell you, I'm reading some reports here online, specifically in The Athletic.
Mm-hmm. What do you got?
Connecting none other than...
Okay. Just tell us.
Bill Belichick.
Bill
Belichick to the Falcons.
Well, I mean, Bill Belichick's been linked pretty much anyone except the Panthers, also the Bucks and maybe the same. Yeah. Welcome to 8 and 9.
I don't know. Now, you still have the same issue. You don't have a quarterback. So Bill would have to figure that out. But you have a good defense.
You do?
I think you do. You have good pieces on defense.
AJ Terrell's legit, dude.
And then you have good pieces on offense. Better than anything the Patriots
Did you watch
have.
that game yesterday?
Well, yesterday they were awful.
I don't know. I mean, feels like you're looking at a lot of 19-14 games if he takes over the Atlanta Falcons.
That's the most attractive job in the NFC South. By far, the Falcons job.
No, I think you say the Saints are too old?
The Saints roster is mismanaged. It's old.
Bucks are old.
They need to retool in a worse way. Bucks in the same deal.
I think Carlos is right on this one. 855-212-4CBS. Could that be a Belichick destination? That's if Belichick is fired. Jay Glazer was reporting yesterday that the Patriots are going to move on. We've got more on that in a moment. 855-212-4CBS. See you guys on the phones. So much to do as we are dissecting now Super Wild Card Weekend. We got it. The playoffs are set. It's Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We're back on Maggie and Perloff. It's an exciting day. Black Monday. You're going to see coaches being fired. And now we have a story that I don't think anyone saw coming with the Washington Commanders. What do we got, Maggie?
Okay, so everyone knows that the Washington Commanders has a new owner, and that is Josh Harris, who also owns the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils, I believe. Okay, so they have relieved Ron Rivera of his duties. I don't think that's any surprise. Ron Rivera had been on the hot seat for some time. So they're getting rid of their coach, and they're also cleaning house in the executive ranks as well. And here's where it gets interesting. Adam Schefter and Woj are both reporting simultaneously that Commanders owner Josh Harris has hired 2 prominent executives to run the Commanders. One is going to be former Warriors general manager Bob Myers. The other is former Vikings general manager Rick Spielman. So the way this is going to work, according to these reports, is that Bob Myers will take a leading role in identifying and coordinating interviews with candidates for both the Commanders' top football operations and head coaching jobs, and Rick Spielman will work closely with him, according to sources.
Wow.
So that's outside the box.
Well, yeah,
Josh Harris.
Listen, if Steve Kerr breaks loose in Golden State, the Browns obviously tried this with Paul DePodesta, the famous baseball executive, brought it, and I think he's still there. And Josh Harris is tied into some of those Browns people. The Browns, of course, hired every smart person and brought him in the building, and it sort of worked, sort of didn't work. They ended up signing Deshaun Watson. It feels very much like this is a cousin of the process in Philadelphia. I know that sounds weird.
Well, the process was all about losing.
Right, but it was about a new approach. It was a new approach to building a champion. Yes, it was about losing, but it was also about analytics taken to a 100th degree. So Josh Harris is going to try and reinvent the wheel. So he's bringing in Bob Myers from the Warriors. Rick Spielman's a little old school, but Carlos, producing today, says that he's worked with Rick Spielman, loves analytics. So this feels like Josh Harris is going to try and sort of a new scientific approach to building an NFL team. Which is weird because there's also a lot of reports that Josh Harris wants Bill Belichick really badly. So I don't know why you would hire Bob Myers and Rick Spielman to hire Bill Belichick. But regardless, it is innovative and new. And there's always been an NBA feel to this too, because Magic is there with Washington. So it feels like they're going to become like the Golden State Warriors, or try to become the Golden State Warriors of the NFL.
You know, I don't know if this necessarily takes Belichick out of the running, and here's why. it's not that Bob Myers has had the same amount of success as Belichick, but if you were the big Achilles heel for Belichick is that he really can't be picking the players anymore. You're going to have to leave that to somebody else. So if you have somebody in the front office who doesn't, again, have the same gravitas as Belichick, but has a lot of gravitas. I mean, Bob Myers is really respected, 4 titles with the Warriors. Again, it's not the same as Bill, but maybe you say, like, Bob's going to make the hire here, and yeah, I'm sure Belichick respects Rick Spielman as well, and maybe there's still a way that could work.
So you're saying an NBA GM has enough gravitas that Bill's like, you pick the players. What are you talking about?
No, not that Bob Myers is going to pick the players, but that Bob Myers will be able to hire a football operations person. That's what they're saying.
Why would Bill Belichick trust an NBA GM to hire a football GM?
I'm just saying the one reason why Belichick to the Dallas Cowboys always made a little bit of sense if the Cowboys did move on from McCarthy is because there's no question about who's picking the players. Belichick wouldn't have a choice. Of course it's going to be Jerry and Stephen Jones and those guys. So this would be a similar type of thing. You're going in with an owner who's empowering someone else to pick the players, and if Belichick wants any part of that, he's going to have to get on board. That's the only reason why Belichick can still be on the table.
I see what you're saying, but I do think it's funny to sit there, Mr. Football himself, sitting there in an interview with Bob Myers.
Well,
it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
But, you think about what did Bob Myers do in Golden State? The signature move was they fired Mark Jackson because he was an old school defensive coach and brought in the new wave Steve Kerr. This would be like the opposite. This would be like hiring Mark Jackson and firing Steve Kerr. Like, why, if everything about your franchise is new age, you're bringing in the ultimate old school coach who's going to suck the fun out of your offense. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a great marriage. The other thing, too, is you're talking about building a future dynasty. How long is Belichick coaching? This doesn't feel like a match to me.
I don't know. It's very interesting. Bob Myers, the former Warriors general manager, is going to be taking over the Washington Commanders front office. I got to be honest. It kind of feels like this is going to go one of two ways, right? Like either this is going to work and somehow Bob Myers is going to find the equivalent. He didn't draft Steph Curry, but I guess find the equivalent of, the next core of Washington, or a basketball person is going to have no business doing this in the football arena, if you will.
Can we get Draymond playing linebacker for Commanders? Like that needs to be tweeted out.
A second career.
I mean, you think actually, and let's talk about Rick Spielman for a second. Spielman's had a lot of really smart offensive coaches on the team. He kind of likes those new age guys, like the Stefanskis of the world. I'm not sure. I think he's going to go for. My sense is Spielman likes like a Kevin O'Connell type. I know, like the current. I think he wants like an offensive mind.
Ben Johnson, maybe.
No, but they had what's his face as their head coach forever, the defensive coordinator. Why am I blanking on his name?
Mike Zimmer.
Mike Zimmer.
Right,
yeah.
but then underneath Zimmer was all the young geniuses. They had obviously Stefanski was running that Vikings offense. I think Spielman will go kind of new age too. It's everything about this says new age to me, and maybe Bill Belichick's a counterbalance to that. Say, okay, we'll have this coach, then we can try to bring in all these different kinds of players, and Belichick will make it work.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's made us think a little bit this morning as we are reacting to, again, I'll reset it, the breaking news that Bob Myers, the former Warriors GM, is going to take over the Washington Commanders.
By the way,
I don't know what his title is going to be yet.
The thing I can't figure out reading the report is whether this is temporary or not. Because the first sentence is they're hiring these two guys to assist ownership with searches for new head coach and football operations. So I don't know that they're permanent hires. It sounds more like they're consultants to figure this out, and then they're going to go back to doing whatever they're going to do.
But often consultants then get the job,
right? But they're not even
Do you think
firing.
he'll recommend himself?
They're not even firing the guys who have front office jobs right now. Like they will, but those guys are not out yet. Like these guys seem to be coming in.
This is like the two Bobs from Office Space.
Exactly.
What would you say you do around here? Yeah.
By the way,
that's interesting. You know what, Bogusch? I think you're correct in that reading, but I have to imagine.
Oh, I don't think so. I think these
Bob
guys
Myers taking over.
I think these guys are going to stay in the building.
All right, Bogusch, you're totally wrong.
By the way, I have no idea. Call back to last week. Do you remember how much fun we had laughing at the anonymous players poll about hot offensive assistants?
Yeah.
Jay Glazer comes out. The first thing he says, Ben Johnson, the Lions, is the hottest candidate. But right behind him, Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator Frank Smith and Panthers coordinator Thomas Brown.
Yep.
So those guys are going to be in the hiring cycle, and we had no idea who they were until 2 weeks ago.
And the Panthers scored 0 points in their last 8 quarters.
Can someone explain why this Panthers coach is on here?
Wait, so speaking of the Panthers, this news may be going to go a little bit more under the radar, but they have fired their general manager, Scott Fitterer. That happened about 10 minutes ago. The news is coming out now like fast and furious. So the Panthers fired their general manager. And listen, I've never met Scott Fitterer. I don't know this guy, but he's just not good at this.
And his last name is annoying to say.
That,
Yeah.
Like I'm sure he's got a lot of other skills. Sure.
Did he draft Derek Brown? That guy's really good.
I think his escape route's going to be, I tried to do better things and David Tepper wouldn't let me.
Sure. Easy.
Well, he was there before Tepper, though.
Yeah.
But he's not going to take Bryce Young heat. Like, that's his spiel is going to be like, I wanted CJ Stroud.
I wanted CJ Stroud, yeah.
That'll be his story.
You know what this
that
is
was
going to
what
be?
Frank Reich was hanging his hat on. He's like, that's not the guy I wanted.
That's the sort of all tell that they all had the right plan and Tepper ruined it.
This is going to be the new I wanted Patrick Mahomes. Like 5 fired head coaches after Mahomes' second year was just like, I tried to tell him I wanted Mahomes.
Playbook.
Yeah.
There are 31 teams that wanted Russell Wilson before the third round. It's amazing how many Andy Reid. Oh, I had Russell Wilson pegged.
Yeah, sure. So again, that's the latest. Andrew Bogusch is here with headlines and even more.
Yeah, we'll spin through all this one more time. Starting with the Commanders. Ron Rivera is out as head coach, and new owner Josh Harris reportedly hiring former Golden State Warriors, that's a basketball team, their GM Bob Myers, former Vikings GM Rick Spielman, to figure out who should be the GM and head coach moving forward. The Panthers have fired GM Scott Fitterer, head coach Frank Reich long gone, and the Falcons canned head coach Arthur Smith shortly after midnight Eastern. He knew what might be happening after yesterday's 48-17 loss at New Orleans.
It's such a privilege to work with these guys. They've worked extremely hard all season. We've clearly come up short, but I appreciate the hell out of them. Love coaching this team.
Smith coached 3 7-10 seasons in Atlanta. The franchise has not made the postseason in 6 years, and the Bill Belichick waiting game continues in New England.
I'm under contract, do what I always do, which is, every day I come in, work as hard as I can to help the team in whatever way I can. So that's what I'm going to continue to do.
That was from last hour. Those on the Belichick beat. So that's a rare reference to his contract from Belichick, who also admitted he would be open to giving up his GM duties if everyone else thinks that's what's best for the team. It sounds like either he's staying and that's the route that's going to happen, or he's telling Bob Kraft out loud here, I'll keep me and I'll do this.
Right.
I'll be just head coach.
Or is he daring somebody to say, you're not going to pick the players anymore? Like, I dare you to say it and then see what I say back.
And then that's a way for him to leave? Like, that's because they wanted to demote me, so to speak?
Yeah, something.
Maybe.
Guys, talk about a job that I would not want. Imagine, A, you don't want to follow a legend anyway, and Bill Belichick. B, you definitely don't want to follow with that roster that Bill Belichick. I mean, is.
You have the number 3 overall pick, so that's a nice consolation prize.
God. I mean, say they pick Jaden Daniels. Who on earth is he throwing to? I'd almost say Carolina. That is a dire job.
Okay, but this might be one of the deepest receiver drafts we've had in a while, which is saying something. Like,
no, every receiver draft is great now.
Okay, so you can find receivers. Look at what, Puka Nacua, Dalton Kincaid, Jordan Addison. I'm leaving out guys. The hell, every one of the Texans and the Green Bay Packers. Like, these guys are young receivers and they're good.
Honestly,
Tank Dell was a rookie, right?
Yeah.
He was lighting up for you, Art.
Okay, name 3 players on the Patriots defense. I mean, they are a bunch of scrubs too.
Matthew Judon, Christian Gonzalez, Barmore. They're not all scrubs.
They are scrub city USA. They're a journeyman team.
It's not a good team. But
Which is why we're talking about firing Belichick to begin with, guys. I get that. But it'd be interesting. Maybe, is there a path here where they bring in I don't know, Bob Myers is already taken. Is there someone else in the basketball front office?
And I wonder what the read is from outsiders on how Kraft would be as an owner after Belichick, with now the pressure of, I need to win again. It's been too long. Like, how hands-on, how much impact is he going to have now with Brady really gone and Belichick really gone? Like, how overbearing might he become?
Dude, I totally forgot to ask you if you saw the story about Robert Kraft throwing the surprise party for the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Did you, or the wife, I'm sorry, his wife. Did you try to sneak in? Just to
No.
let you know, Belichick threw his wife a surprise birthday party at the historic Apollo Theater in Uptown New York City and had Dave Matthews play the event. And I thought of Bogusch immediately.
That's a long-standing relationship. I don't know if it's just her or his kids. I don't think it's Bob himself, but that's not the first time Dave has played one of their events. So that's a connection.
His wife likes Dave Matthews.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised. Wish I got an invite. Maybe next time.
I'm surprised you didn't try to break in.
I had no
mustache.
Yeah, I had no pre-warning. Had I known beforehand, who knows what would have happened.
I feel like you got to mark this day down and remember her birthday next year and then figure out where they're going to be.
Very quickly get in the Kraft inner circle to get an invite. Befriend one of his kids.
Yeah, say be like, I got this guy you should hire to your front office, Phil Jackson. Ever heard of him?
I watched a game with Kraft 2 years ago in the Columbia booth.
It must be nice.
He goes to a lot of Columbia games.
His name's on the stadium, right?
Yeah. He's like always there. Him and Marcellus Wiley, and he's a very nice man. I would have mentioned something and gotten you in there.
We weren't that
I
tight
got
then.
this friend who's a big DMB fan.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no chance Bob Kraft knows anything about Dave Matthews.
You don't think?
No, he's
more of a Meek Mill fan?
I think so.
Yeah. I think DMB, it's too jammy for Robert Kraft.
Well, I think Robert's a little...
Who was it that he was
skew in the
dancing with? Rihanna? What's that big famous clip of Bob Kraft dancing? I think it's either Megan Thee Stallion or Rihanna.
I know that one.
Oh, yeah. He's like Mr. Pop music guy. You didn't know about Bob Kraft?
I don't want to know what Bob Kraft's listening to.
Cardi B.
Cardi B.
Apparently he sits on the board of the Apollo.
Okay.
The Apollo Theater.
Yeah, he's definitely super tight with Meek Mill. I mean, he's like, Dave
got
Matthews
Meek
is
Mill
not
out of
cool
jail.
enough for Bob Kraft. Yeah.
And Dave Matthews isn't cool enough.
Definitely.
Not enough street cred
The
for Bobby.
guy's jamming with Cardi B. Cardi B's
Yeah,
never
take a
even
back
heard
seat,
of Dave
Dave.
Matthews.
Yeah, let's put Dave in jail and see how Bob Kraft reacts to that.
He'd be out in an hour.
Right? All right, so that's all the player or the coach GM stuff. Plenty of players around the NFL might have played their final game with their current teams yesterday, some more important than others, like Derrick Henry in Tennessee.
Tight game. I just want to say thank you for the greatest 8 years of my life, the ups and the downs. Y'all been there for everything through the adversity. Watching me grow as a person and a player, always supporting me. I love y'all. I love seeing the 22s in the stadium. Hopefully I was an inspiration to all the young kids and everybody in the community. Just thank y'all so much. Man, God is good. And tighten up, baby.
Henry grabbed the mic after a season-high 153 yards and a score as the Titans sent the Jaguars home with a 28-20 win in Nashville. He turned 30 last week, headed for free agency now.
I say Derrick Henry, first instinct, Hall of Famer. Yes or no?
Yes.
4-time Pro Bowler, which is not great.
No.
That's not a lot,
And
but I
probably
agree.
not a lot of postseason success either, just because of the team.
Yeah, I mean, they did make one AFC title game. My instinct is yes as well, although, and honestly, part of it because no running backs are good anymore, so he's like the one good running back, right?
Well, running backs are still good.
No, but I mean, he's the one guy who's actually
Important.
defied
And
the
featured.
trend and
Yeah.
been a featured running back. But whatever, it's not going to be good next year. When he, at 30, after all those carries, someone's going to pay him $4 million. Not good.
I think that Derrick Henry also has to now start a side business of like for bridesmaids and groomsmen and stuff. It's like, keep it short, to the point, perfect. And then the guy takes the mic after, he's like, say no more. Like Derrick Henry, the king. And he runs off the field to cheers. So it's like, you can't
Perfect.
script that better.
Yeah, and the guy was tiny next to him, by the way. He looked like a
Everyone
giant.
is.
Well, I would think most people are.
But you got to have Derrick Henry show up at your next wedding and just like cut the bridesmaid off.
Yeah, he was
Just
it was
rambling.
Perfect. Although I said to you, man, I'm like, is Derrick Henry killing his negotiating stance by saying goodbye to Tennessee? At least he could say, like, tell other teams, well, Tennessee might still like me. What are you talking about? You just gave a speech at their stadium.
How about the weird one? Do you see Justin Fields? Now, this one was, are we doing this later? I'm sorry. Justin Fields?
He sort of said goodbye.
We'll get into that in a minute. That was a little surprising.
From 5-5 in November to AFC East champs, the Bills completing their turnaround with last night's turnaround in Miami, down 14-7. They scored 14 in the fourth for a 21-14 win over the Dolphins. So Buffalo wins its fourth straight division title. Will host the Steelers Sunday afternoon. The Dolphins now play in KC Saturday night. And Kyrie Irving hit the tying and the go-ahead three in the Mavs 115-108 home win over the T-Wolves. He and Luka Doncic combining for 69 points. And Rafael Nadal yesterday withdrew from next week's Australian Open because of a small muscle tear near the hip that cost him most of last year. The issue arose while Nadal was playing in Brisbane on Friday. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, thank you so much. See you guys on the phones. We'll get to you. We will get to the Justin Fields, maybe saying a goodbye to the fans in Chicago. That was a little bit odd. So much to do, and we've got more coaching news on the way. Big changes, especially in our nation's capital. We'll get to that next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. This is actually one of my favorite days of the year. Not because I enjoy seeing people getting fired, but I enjoy reactions because there is no time when people are more wrong than coaching hires. Every time we're like, oh, we got this guy. This guy's got two. Well, the draft too, but even coaching hires are even worse. Like, oh, this guy's won so many places. He's going to be great here. No, he's not. This is a time where bad franchises make mistakes again and again and again. So we're seeing a lot of bad franchises firing coaches. The question is just remember, be skeptical on their next hire. That's all I'm saying, Maggie.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll look a little bit foolish, but sometimes you do find the right fit and the perfect fit. So this is a time, I get it, you're not excited because people are fired. It's just like the draft in that it represents optimism. Like if you're a team that has a fired coach, you're like, man, maybe we find our next, Bill Parcells.
That's so funny. You're the negative
Bill
person.
Walsh.
You're like optimism. To me, this is pure false optimism. Man, you think all of a sudden the Panthers are going to make the right move after making nothing but wrong moves for 10 years?
There's always hope, Perloff. Don is in California. He's got a thought on the Chargers. Hey, Don, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. What's on your mind?
Well, I live in Northern California, actually. Grew up there and Raiders and Niners fan, but I've always kind of had my eye on San Diego long before you guys were like even born, back in the days of Air Coryell, if you heard of that.
Sure.
Fouts at quarterback, quite a dynamic team. And they have good personnel now, and I feel sorry for those personnel because Thanos is an idiot when it comes to football. His empire is just about 40 miles north of me up in Stockton, California, in the Central Valley. He's a builder. But he cannot do any justice with a football team. They probably should have been in the championship game at least 3 or 4 times over the last 40 years that he's had the club.
Well, Don,
so here's what I do now to get to the chase.
Yes.
I would go after Jim Harbaugh.
They should. Don,
I think with the 49ers.
And I think he helps a lot of a lot of what they're looking for. And Don, thank you for the phone call and for checking in. In the same way that Belichick does, which is culture setter, has gravitas, but Harbaugh, while he doesn't have the success that Belichick does, he does come in with the pedigree of being able to turn around teams very quickly and running really effective offenses.
I think that caller had a really interesting point, though. Are there certain teams where the ownership group hamstrings whoever they hire? And that's been the case with the Chargers for a long time. So I'm sorry, again, to me, this is a bit of false optimism. It's like, how do you know Jim Harbaugh is going to be the one who's going to reverse 40 years of history here, where they've had a ton of talent, but some organizational dysfunction has always held them back? I'm not saying that dysfunction goes away with a Belichick or a Harbaugh.
It's a great point because this is the worst type of owner to have, one that is, has limitations and is very involved. It's like, it's one thing if you're like kind of a hapless owner, but you stay away. If you're Dean Spanos and his family, his son is involved, other members of the family, like you're going to have to manage, if you're the head coach, you have to manage all of those people too.
So I think your take is bringing someone with enough gravitas that they can pull it away from that ownership group.
Well, I mean, which one of these is not like the other?
Yeah.
Mike McCoy, Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
You know, it's like these guys, I think they hire guys sometimes that they know they can probably have a major influence. Harbaugh, it's going to be a little different.
I mean, the same thing can be said about Jerry Jones. He hired, after he got rid of Parcells, there was a lot of Dave Campo and guys like that. And Jason Garrett stuck around forever.
Yeah.
By the way, is it Stockton, California? You know what that's famous for?
What is Stockton, California?
That's where the Kings G League team plays.
Oh, really? Stockton, California, home of my favorite band, Pavement.
Of course.
Yeah, and by the way, Stockton I thought was a very middle-class town. That's where Dean Spanos got all his money from, is building up Stockton.
I don't know.
I was a little surprised when he said that.
I didn't know this was the center of his empire.
Yeah, I know. All the fancy real estate in the Bay Area, he built Stockton, California. Interesting. I wonder if we're on in Stockton. If so, what's up, Pavement fans?
And how many Kings games have you been going to? I don't even know what the G League team is named.
The Stockton Kings.
Oh.
If it ain't broke.
You know who'd be a good coach for them?
Darvin Ham.
Come
on, John Stockton. Darvin Ham's a better answer, though.
I think John Stockton's a little busy looking at the internet. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Super Wild Card Weekend. We've got some coaching news to get to, but if I just say who is the most dangerous underdog of Super Wild Card Weekend, you say who?
Dangerous to win this weekend or to go for it?
To win this weekend.
I don't understand how the Bucs are underdogs at home against this broken Eagles team. I think they should be the favorites. So I'm going to say Tampa Bay.
Okay, I think the most dangerous underdog has got to be the Houston Texans. And I like Cleveland. I've said they can pose the biggest threat to the Baltimore Ravens because they know them well, because the defense is good. But you've got the Texans at home as a 2.5-point underdog. Like, I get it. Cleveland's been playing well, and this has kind of been like found money here with Joe Flacco. But what more do the Texans have to do to prove that they can win in a lot of different ways?
Well, they're 10-7 and they won the AFC South.
So
I'm just saying that proves nothing.
The Browns are the Browns.
Yeah, I know. The Browns aren't in perfect shape either, but winning the AFC South proves nothing. I mean, if I didn't love the Texans, I would say that division was destined for a one and done in the playoffs, no matter who won it.
Coming up, we've got the latest for you. It is Black Monday, and boy, are the changes coming, and they're coming quick. Got them all next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
She can run the 40 faster than Tom Brady. He got a perfect score on the Wonderlic. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
And welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Major changes already happening in NFL front offices and coaching staffs all around the country. Perloff, not a surprise that Ron Rivera has been let go from the Commanders, but where the Commanders went from there, I didn't see coming.
Yeah, they hired former Warriors GM Bob Myers, current ESPN analyst, and they're bringing in our buddy Rick Spielman, former Vikings GM. Now, there's some confusion on our part, not confusion, but we still don't know how permanent their role is. They're going to be hiring the next coach, which is really odd when you think about it. Is it that hard to hire a coach? You need to bring in a former GM and a supposed genius from the NBA?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of teams get it wrong. So this is the kind of outside the box thinking that perhaps maybe we can start to expect with Josh Harris, the new owner of the Washington Commanders. He's got a basketball background, he's got a hockey background, and never really done football before. So here we go. You get Bob Myers now is going to be leading the charge.
Reminds me, last year's Smarter Than Everybody franchise was the Carolina Panthers, who put in all this energy into the, and they, maybe 2 years, I can't remember what year they hired Frank Reich, all that, and they hired Frank Reich, and boom, he's gone in like 11 games. So I do think that I think there's a little bit of randomness to it. Do you really need to bring in the Algonquin Roundtable to hire your coach as a football coach?
Well, again, I mean, how many teams get it wrong and it sets you back? And especially where the Commanders are, this is the most interesting they've been in a while because they, by virtue of not only losing to the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, but because of a couple other things breaking their way, they now have the number 2 overall pick in the draft. I mean, you've been looking for a quarterback. Here you go. You're going to get the second bite at the apple here. Maybe you even could trade up, possibly, if the Bears are so inclined. We have no idea how that's going to go. And you're sitting now with a team that's not totally devoid of talent. There are some offensive skill position players that are good, and you do have guys on the defense. Now, the defense looked terrible yesterday and has looked bad for a while, but like on paper, they do have some investment on the defensive side too.
Well, yeah, they did trade away their 2 real defensive stars, Chase Young and Montez Sweat. If they are number 2 and they can't get up to number 1, it looks like they'll probably take Drake May, and they'll be 5-12, and we won't talk about them at all.
Well,
I mean, honestly,
geez, Perloff, who's being the pessimist
I mean,
now?
maybe I'm stuck in the Daniel Snyder mindset, but there is a long, big, deep hole to climb out for this Commanders, especially if they can't get up to number 1 for Caleb Williams. I would say no matter who they hire, they're going into next season as a bottom 5 excitement team.
I disagree. I think they've already shown now that they're going to zig maybe a little when others are zagging. So I like it. I'm curious to see what Bob Myers and Rick Spielman come up with. And we'll see if their coaching hire is in any way outside the box like this consulting hire or whatever their final title is going to be. So that's one thing that's going on. You also had the Panthers, the aforementioned Panthers, fired their general manager, Scott Fitterer. So he will be gone. I don't know. Didn't really make a strong case to keep his job, but here you go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest call in the history of the NFL to fire that dude.
Well, when he traded a second-round pick for Sam Darnold, then gave Darnold $20 million, maybe that was the writing on the wall. But here's the thing. You now have an owner that looks like could be a handful to work for. Let's put that generously for David Tepper. To put it less generously, it looks like you have an impetuous billionaire who's owning the team who likes to throw drinks at fans. As the GM, that's a cozy relationship that you usually have with the owner.
Right.
The coach also, but sometimes the coach could be a step removed. You never know. So who is the right personality to go along with a billionaire like David Tepper? That is not going to be easy.
Well, one thing that works for Tepper's favor is there's only 32 of these jobs, both GMs and coaches. So somebody's going to take it. I heard someone say, "Oh, no one's going to want to take the Panthers coaching job," but that's just not true because these are rare opportunities.
And his money's green.
So. Yeah, and listen, there's got to be a lot of young. First, there is this sort of wave of analytic guys in offices around the league, and I'll bet you that's where Panthers go for. I'll bet you they're looking at the head analytics guy at each team and saying, maybe this is our guy. Tepper has always sort of talked that talk. So it's going to be a guy without a lot of head GMing experience, a young guy, I think, and probably same with the coach.
We already had Arthur Smith of the Falcons who got fired just after midnight today. So that happened. And then on a smaller front, you did have the Giants fired a special teams coordinator, offensive line coach. More of that stuff is going to trickle in as the morning continues. Okay, it is Monday, so that means it's time for the Hurry Up Offense. Okay, Carlos is going to give us the game, and we'll give you our 30-second breakdown on each one. Carlos, what do you got?
All right, well, let's start with the Saturday afternoon showdown, and for the AFC North implications, Steelers and Ravens.
Showdown. I mean, the Steelers.
I'm trying to be nice.
This is why the Steelers frustrated me on Saturday. Their season is on the line, and they knew it was bad weather, and they fumbled the ball 6 times. All Mason Rudolph had to do was hold on to the ball ever, and every snap was a total adventure. Jalen Warren and Mason Rudolph were so shaky in that situation. If you're Tomlin, you got to say, I don't care what you do, just do not fumble.
The biggest thing coming out of this game was, A, that the Pittsburgh Steelers make the playoffs. They'll now go to Buffalo in the first round, but that T.J. Watt left the game with a knee sprain. His knee, I don't want to say is everything, but it's a lot. Also, could they go back to Kenny Pickett?
I think the biggest thing is actually that the Ravens have no injuries at all coming to the playoffs, which is really seriously important.
All right, speaking of showdowns, go to Saturday night. Texans and Colts.
Great. The Texans win the AFC South. Congratulations. C.J. Stroud is a star in the making. 20 of 26, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Nico Collins, 9 catches, 195 yards, and a touchdown. Houston now will host Cleveland. I think I'm picking this as my upset early. They are a home underdog, and I think that Houston's going to be a near clean sweep in postseason awards, or regular season awards, excuse me.
I think Houston screwed around a little bit and kind of found out. They should have put the pedal to the metal and won that game early. They tried to control it with running, and then they got into a running battle with the Colts, which was a mistake because the Colts are a better running team. I think the Colts blew that game, but I do think Houston's dangerous because C.J. Stroud's the real deal.
All right, well, here's a result that no one saw coming. Jaguars and Titans.
Oh, my gosh. I think we saw it coming. I mean, Maggie saw it coming. The Jaguars have been the wheels have come off lately. And Trevor Lawrence, he looked healthy. Like, you couldn't see the injury, but it's got to be the injury,
He didn't
right?
play healthy.
I mean, but you can't see whatever I don't even remember. He has 2 injuries, I know. But he missed so many big plays here. I'm not giving up on him. I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances starting with health.
Yeah, I'm not giving up on Trevor Lawrence, but I mean, this was a bad stretch. Yeah, he's got ankle, he's got shoulder, he had a concussion. But at the same time, you lost to a Titans team that got eliminated weeks ago from contention.
Yeah.
Who's next?
All right, let's go to did Ben Johnson do enough to get a new head coaching job game in the Lions and Vikings?
Well, probably, yes. They won that game, even though the Vikings made it tight with back-to-back touchdown passes to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. However, the biggest thing coming out of this game, again, is an injury, Sam Laporta's knee. And we're not sure how serious that knee injury is. And meanwhile, Dan Campbell's saying you're either all in or you're all out. I mean, they didn't need to be playing their starters like this in this game, but Dan Campbell has his way he wants to play. It happened in Dallas where he kept going for 2, even though they were getting backed up by penalties. And now it's playing Laporta.
Remember that interview last week? I don't know if you heard this. The interviewer called him reckless. Yeah. It did feel like he was veering towards reckless again. The Laporta injury was gross. His knee went away. It shouldn't go. I love Sam Laporta. That's going to kill them if he can't play.
The who did it worse game. Falcons versus Saints.
Guys, look at Derek Carr's stats over the last month. I'm telling you, that guy he's a good NFL quarterback again. The Bermuda Triangle. The Saints, it's a shame because I feel like they're the best NFC South team right now, and they're not representing the division in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, only your own fault because of that. Meanwhile, the Falcons already fired their head coach, and Arthur Smith. There was a dust-up post-game. Arthur Smith upset with the Saints because they were in victory formation and then ran a play out of victory formation just to get a touchdown for Jamal Williams. It was weird, but again, it's professional football. It's not kids out there. Falcons are a mess.
Speaking of messes, the Jets and the Patriots from yesterday's slate.
Yeah, this was I mean, you're Bill Belichick. You've won 15 straight against the Jets, and this could be your last game in Foxborough, and you lose to the Jets, the hated Jets.
Who
he despises. Listen, Jets, don't really have much to say about. For the Patriots, this is the end of an era, and if they do move on from Belichick, Perloff, we'll have to talk about this later. Is it better and smarter for them to go inside the Belichick coaching tree or to go outside the coaching tree? And we'll get more into that.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the scores. It feels like they need to bring life into this franchise. Even you could bring in Mike Vrabel and maybe you could go 10-7, but I don't know. Where's the excitement? What are you looking forward to? Because it's been going one way since Brady left, and it's down.
And it's a perfect segue for this one. Somebody had to the win it division game, Buccaneers and Panthers.
Yeah, it was funny. I was sweating this out because I took the Bucs and I laid the 4.5, and it was like 6-0 for 3.5 quarters. The Bucs won this game, and maybe Baker Mayfield gets to keep the job, but this is one of those where you might end up losing by winning, which means you're probably not going to make a change at head coach, and you might keep things the status quo just because you made the playoffs at 9-8 when you probably are better served with some type of rebuild.
I don't really understand what happened to the Bucs. They looked amazing against the Packers. I mean, the Packers, who are now a playoff team, the Bucs looked like a real threat, and it just fell apart the last 2 games.
Baker got hurt.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, at least you get $1 million to fall back on. Well, let's go to the Battle of Ohio, the Bengals over the Browns.
You know, I'm wondering, after this game, it meant nothing, but is Jake Browning winning a job? Possibly in the NFL, because he sure looked pretty good in this game, and he's looked good all season long. I mean, this can be totally shallow, but it was his girlfriend/wife that stole the day.
I was going to say,
according
that was
to internet.
the biggest thing to come out of that game was that chick wearing a catsuit or whatever that thing
he
was.
already won.
I'm like, they were only just showing his highlights for an excuse to then put the camera on the booth with this girl jumping around like Josie and the Pussycats.
Who needs Taylor Swift?
Jake Brownie's 27, and I kind of saw an NFL quarterback out there for the Bengals. Maybe it's because the Bengals are a really good team. I wonder if he's a bridge quarterback somewhere.
All right, let's go to the Star is Born game. Packers and Bears.
Man, this was an interesting one. Well, first of all, for the Packers, I mean, how good does Jordan Love look? And I know that the Bears have trouble sometimes. Their defense has gotten better, but it's not perfect. But I was not sold on Jordan Love. I've become sold on Jordan Love. I can't believe the Packers are going to do this. 3 straight quarterbacks. I don't know if Love's going to the Hall of Fame, but he looked incredible. And I thought it was weird for the Bears that Justin Fields kind of said goodbye to everybody. He said it sort of just in case this is the last time I talk to you. I know they're 7-10, but last week they were the hottest team in the NFL. I think that the Bears are going to do what they always were planning to do, which is fire Eberflus, trade Justin Fields, get a new coach, and draft Caleb Williams.
I don't know. If they had won this game, then I think the momentum, because the only 2 losses they had the games won, and they gave them away to really good teams, the Lions and the Browns. So I'm not sure I totally agree with that. But Star is Born, I thought, first of all, the Eagles are the Star is Born team because Bradley Cooper's there.
Oh, stop.
Jordan Love built his star a few weeks ago. This game was okay. They won 17-9. I don't know. Was last night Jordan Love's breakout performance?
Don't be a
all.
freaking weirdo.
Don't be a weirdo. That's the first time I've
Jordan Love's been a star. He's been great the second half of the season.
I think the reason why last night was big, it was a win and you're in. You know, there's a lot of pressure there. You had the Bears coming into town that you knew were going to play hard. So I think he showed people a lot of things there.
Yeah, but I mean, they won this game 17-9.
Well, okay, but it's also it's January in Lambeau. What kind of score are you expecting?
He'd been putting up a lot of 30s and 40s. Like, this is a potentially explosive offense. You got to remember, the Packers are the worst defense in the league. The Bears did not take advantage.
All right, let's go to the Commanders' really stink game, and that's the Commanders and the Cowboys.
Listen, Cowboys lock up the number 2 seed, the 2 home playoff games. They get the Packers in the first round. It's going to be kind of interesting, a little Mike McCarthy bowl. I thought the big thing here, Dak was great again with the 4 touchdowns. I know he threw a pick, but to me now it's all about Washington and the changes that they've made. They've got the 2nd overall pick in the draft. They've just hired Bob Myers, the former Warriors GM, and Rick Spielman, former Vikings GM, to find them a new coach, and obviously they need a new quarterback.
Yeah, one side plot of this game, I was really interested to watch Eric Bieniemy and the offense, because Bieniemy's going to be in the coaching cycle once again, and it was not impressive. Unfortunately, it's not Bieniemy's fault at all. But I thought if Bieniemy could have a great showing here, build momentum for him to get that job finally. Now I have no idea.
All right, well, I want your opinion on this one, because did Antonio Pierce do enough to win the job game, and that's the Broncos and the Raiders?
I don't think so at all, because the Harbaugh rumors are so hot. And what do they say to you? And not only maybe they don't get Jim Harbaugh, but the first team that's been linked to him that's going to go all out according to Rap Sheet is the Raiders. So that means that they don't see Antonio Pierce as a formula to get where they want to go, which I presume is Super Bowl. He's a defensive coach, Meg. I just think defensive coaches are not in, although it was fun to watch him sort of go celebrate with the crowd after the game.
Don't make the same mistake again here, Raiders. You already had a good coach in Rich Bisaccia who the players were playing for, and you jettisoned him for what? The shinier object of Josh McDaniels, and that was terrible. Antonio Pierce is here. The guys like playing for him. Don't overthink this.
Yeah, but he kind of won. He beat some game. These are exhibition games. The Broncos weren't even trying yesterday. That meant nothing.
I'm just saying it's more than just yesterday.
Didn't he lose 3-0 to the Vikings at one point this season?
Listen, it's not going to be a perfect straight line, Perloff. But I like him.
My favorite game of the entire schedule, the ELGLES game, Eagles and Giants.
Oh, you're mocking him.
You guys know this game meant nothing, right? You know what this game... The Eagles had won 73-0 and set the all-time NFL mark. You know what that would have meant? Nothing. This game was... I don't know why they played Jalen Hurts. That's the only thing that I disagree with. Should have sat everybody. Now Jalen Hurts screwed up his finger. A.J. Brown hurt his knee. Whatever.
Perloff is finally coming to the realization that this season is... you've known it's been over, but it's not just how that they lost. It's how they lost has been a continuation of how they've been losing. So it's not just a one-off game. The Eagles are, unfortunately, steadily declining here.
Oh, you think when they gave up 250 yards of rushing to the Arizona Cardinals and lost at home with the division on the line?
I mean,
whatever happened yesterday was embarrassing, but it really meant nothing.
This crap is crap.
The real problem is going to come in the playoffs.
Well, there's still a shot.
This is Monday night. Yeah, you know what would be funny if Sirianni won a game and made people think that everything's okay? Because if you follow the Eagles roster like I do, and not Carlos, they're losing everybody this offseason. Like
probably for the better.
Nah, I don't know. Losing Jason Kelce, losing Fletcher Cox, losing Brandon Graham, that can't be for the better.
Well, you got old. Okay, keep going.
Want to fly like an eagle. Seahawks and Cardinals, the Bird Bowl.
Yeah, man, this was probably a little too close here for the Seahawks. They end up getting the win, but it still, I think, casts a lot of doubt on the future for Pete Carroll. Not just because of his age, but also because the defense just really isn't great. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, on the flip side, have been one of the better teams over the last month of the season. Clearly, they're going to stick with Kyler Murray, but Seahawks needed that game-winning field goal. The Cardinals missed the game-winning field goal.
Prater
This was like
2 field goals at the end.
Escape, you know?
That felt like a preseason game. I don't know how the Seahawks knew it didn't mean anything, but they were playing like it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's not good.
So they needed the Packers to lose, basically. They must have been scoreboard watching. I don't know if it's good or bad.
Oh, yeah, I guess the Packers would have been at the same time. But
Yeah,
still.
they must have been scoreboard watching because, both teams just feel kind of futureless.
Do you think Pete Carroll in or out next year?
I lean in, but I don't know where they're going with them. Where do you lean?
I lean out.
That's such an interesting situation because what do they do after Carroll?
Well, and you need a new quarterback also. I mean, not that Geno's the problem, but he's never been your long-term solution. Don't you have to at least start thinking about his successor?
But you're 9-8. I imagine you're drafting around 18, 19. Is there a surefire answer at quarterback?
I don't know. I mean, you found Russell Wilson in the 3rd round. How far away are you from the 49ers right now in your own division?
Oh,
pretty far.
You're not in the same conversation. I mean, you have
you
have DK and Lockett at wide receiver, but other than that, the defense has gotten old.
And the Rams just made a wild card. Okay.
Speaking of which, Rams and 49ers.
This is the Perloff backup quarterback Super Bowl. So this game was won. The Niners had it won. It didn't look like the Rams were even showing up. So I was looking at the seeding halfway through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Rams are going to play the Cowboys. Then Carson Wentz, he must have think that he's getting a job out of this game because I've never seen he tried harder than any quarterback's tried all year long. God bless Carson Wentz. And by the way, he looks pretty good.
How about he had the same amount of carries as he had completions? 17 carries for 56 yards. I did not see that coming. And did I finally convince you now that Sam Darnold is not worth your time?
Sam Darnold was fine. He was absolutely fine. He wasn't throwing to the top receivers. A couple guys dropped balls in the end zone. Sam Darnold, with that team around him, I'm telling you, Sam Darnold might not be great. The Niners, if they're fully loaded, do not forget about that team just because they lost this game.
Oh, we are totally not doing that. That is Brock Purdy's team. Chiefs and Chargers, 1-point blowout.
Oh, I have no idea.
That game was what happened in this game?
Yeah, it was very bright jerseys whenever Red Zone went to it. I was like, wow, that's a really.
This is the one game that I think everyone could have just nationally slept on. I didn't hear a lick about this game.
You know what's funny is I had this on in the quad box.
Yeah, but you had no choice. If you're going quad, then it had to be on.
Right, I guess you're right about that. But the quad box going plus Red Zone plus my laptop plus my phone. So. Yeah,
I saw one play. I actually did catch a couple plays. Blaine Gabbert scrambled for about 11 yards and got up. And both he and the lineman were laughing at the fact that Blaine Gabbert actually bothered to run. It just felt like everybody was having a good time out there and it meant nothing.
Oh, no. Chris Jones got a sack in the 3rd quarter. That's 10.5, and he had a $1.25 million bonus kick in.
Kind of a weak sack, too.
Well, listen, I mean, he started off the season sitting in a box, watching the game because of a contract dispute. Now here they are as the 3 seed.
Is the Chris Jones dancing gif out there like Jadeveon Clowney? He was going crazy after his sack.
I know.
I mean, what, $750,000 I think he made on that. And I guess a game we might have touched on a little bit, Bills and Dolphins.
Yeah, wow. I mean, this is the Josh Allen experience. We say that a lot, but this game really encapsulated that. And this whole season has been so up and down for the Bills. that I guess it's fitting that they get the number 2 seed and get to host the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round. No one's more shocked than me. When the Dolphins got the ball at the very end, I assumed they were going to go down and score and either tie the game or go for a 2-point conversion and win the game. And instead, Tua threw a pick. I mean, they just keep losing bodies left and right. I don't even think the Bills are like necessarily that hot right now, but
well, they're letting teams hang around, which is weird.
Always.
But they're pretty good. I've seen stats where they're pretty good at blowing out medium to bad teams. When they're heavy favorites, they used to blow people out.
Well,
what happened to that?
That doesn't exist anymore. And
what's different? Like last year, I'll bet you if you look at the scores, when they were playing a struggling team, they would win 41-20 or something.
So the defense isn't as good, right? They have gotten a little bit older, even though they're doing a fantastic job with the pieces that are left. So congrats. But
guys have come back, though.
Yeah, Daquan Jones came back. I think that one of the other things, and you know, it's not that I won't criticize Josh Allen. I just think that he is an elite quarterback. And so I find it weird when people try to rip him down and tear him down, where it's like you see the tools and you see the skill, and he has had playoff success. He hasn't been to a Super Bowl yet. He's been to an AFC Championship game. Like, you know that this could work. But I will say this, Josh Allen's interceptions and turnovers have become much more of a no doubt sure thing. Like 2 years ago, it was never a given that he was going to throw an interception in every game. Now it's a given. Like, I almost joke about it. Like, get it out of your system in the first quarter. Like, it was 2 picks last night. They should be up by so much more. That part of it has changed as well.
Well, didn't he lead the league in interceptions 2 years ago, though?
I don't know if it was 2 years ago.
I mean, he's led the league in interceptions. So this year was crazy. 18, 14 the year before that, 15 the year before that.
Yeah, and the fumbles, which he's kind of cleaned up on, although he did fumble last night.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that he keeps the other team close. Because I'm wondering, how did the Chargers and the Patriots almost beat this Bills team? Honestly, like, the Dolphins was an easier assignment than the Chargers.
They are a classic team of playing up or down to your competition. Okay.
But they never used to be like that. Something has changed. Anyway, but that being said, they play up to their competition. Maggie, come on. You got to be feeling great right now.
I can't believe we're here. After all that, after when they lost to the Denver Broncos because they had 12 men on the field on the field goal, I came in with my Bills shirt on with it X'd out in red. I was ready to give up. Well, I'm never going to turn my back on the team because I'm a true fan, unlike Andrew Perloff. But I was ready to totally change everything. And to be honest, I'm still kind of there. But to be where they are right now, it feels like a miracle.
All right. And then I won't ask you if they lose this game, is McDermott fired?
Yeah. Yes. 855-212-4CBS, Maggie and Perloff. Okay, more coaching news coming fast and furious on this Black Monday. We get it to you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back on Maggie and Perloff. I asked you earlier, is Derrick Henry a Hall of Famer? Your instinct, yes or no? You said yes. Mm-hmm. Just your instinct, immediate reaction. Should the Eagles bring back Nick Sirianni? Don't think about it.
No.
Does anybody, am I going to be the only person in the world supporting the beleaguered Eagles coach Nick Sirianni?
I gotta be honest, those two questions are not really on the same level.
I just wanted your gut reaction.
You should apologize to Derrick Henry for putting the Derrick Henry gut reaction, is he a Hall of Famer, and the gut reaction, should Nick Sirianni come back?
I'm going to tell you right now, Nick Sirianni, he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. He is going to stay in Philadelphia and win a Super Bowl. And I'm the only believer in him. It's just that he's such a goofball on the sideline. Everyone wants to get him fired. You can't be. Well, what are you talking about then? He's made the playoffs 3 years in a row, and he just won 10 games with a bunch of injuries. I don't understand. What's he supposed to do?
Well, the first year it felt like they made the playoffs in spite of him. He didn't want to run the ball. The fans were clamoring for it. He handed off play calling responsibilities to the now head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and things got better.
He took over a losing team and got them to the playoffs. That was probably his best year out of the three.
Okay, then, and who did he take over for?
Doug Peterson.
Who won a Super Bowl, and they fired him. So this is not a team that is so loyal. We're not talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers here.
They've only had 3 coaches this century, as far as I can remember.
They fired a Super Bowl winning coach 3 years later.
They had Reed forever. They had Peterson, and now they hired Sirianni. To fire Sirianni in 3 years, let him have one losing season. I think the rush to fire people is amazing to me these days.
We should get Spike in here so you guys can debate that, because watching you guys yell at each other before 6 in the morning about this was absolutely amazing and glorious.
So Spike's my boss, and I can't say anything mean, but he was acting like that Giants game meant something yesterday. He was actually disappointed on Twitter. I was like, dude, get back to the Sixers. The Eagles-Giants game doesn't mean anything.
Can I go to something that actually matters today? And that is a clarification from Albert Breer on what's going on with the Washington Commanders. And that is, there was news that Bob Myers, the Warriors general manager, has been hired by the Washington Commanders, along with Rick Spielman, former Vikings general manager. Albert Breer is saying, just for clarity, Bob Myers and Rick Spielman were brought in as advisors. They're not Commanders' full-time employees. They'll help find... Well played, Manny. They'll help find a new head of football ops and a head coach. Meanwhile, GM Martin Mayhew and top executive Marty Herney remain. They'll be evaluated by the new football operations hire. So when I say my money is the GM and the top executive are not going to be sticking around, but that was a little misleading from Schefter and Woj's report.
Yeah.
Bob Myers and Rick Spielman are not being hired as full-time employees.
They got to bring back, did you see the graphic during the Texans game of the coaching staff under Mike Shanahan back in the day, all the future head coaches? So Bobby Slowick is a Texans coordinator. Yeah. They got to bring that guy back into the fold, because all the other ones were Mike McDaniel, Miami, Sean McVay, Rams, Kyle Shanahan, Niners, and who's the fourth one? There's another guy.
Zach Taylor? No.
Maybe that's it. And then Raheem Morris was also in the building. But how you let all those guys out of the building and go to Ron Rivera.
Oh, sorry, Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell, right. So, yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think they're going to go new age offense. They're going to try and be one of these fancy teams. Ben Johnson, I mean, if they could pay up for him. I don't know why you need Bob Myers in the building.
I don't either. You're thinking outside the box. Andrew Bogusch is here with some headlines. It is Black Monday, so good morning.
Good morning, guys, and that's where we begin. Those Commanders going back to the drawing board once again, but this time it's a unique drawing board. Head coach Ron Rivera is out. His replacement and that new head of football operations will be picked by a group that now includes former Warriors GM Bob Myers and former Vikings GM Rick Spielman. Myers and owner Josh Harris have a long relationship, and Harris wants Myers to show them how to build the organization that he helped build for Golden State. Falcons head coach Arthur Smith, Panthers GM Scott Fitterer also fired, while Bill Belichick still in charge in New England at the moment. A path to remaining their head coach might include giving up his GM duties, and Belichick said this morning he's not necessarily opposed to that.
Look, I'm for whatever, collectively we decide as an organization is the best thing to help our football team.
But until we hear from Robert Kraft, Belichick's time with the Patriots might have ended with a 17-3 loss to Trevor Siemian and the Jets in the snow in Foxborough yesterday.
I have a question for you. So Belichick's the GM and kind of like the chief decision maker, right? So let's say the Patriots are trying to trade him. Who's leading that
good question.
charge? Because that's Belichick's area.
Yeah.
And it's funny, when he said what's best for the organization, was he saying even firing me might be best for the organization? Was that sort of implied by that?
I don't know. I don't think guys generally fire themselves, but...
Well, he might be saying what might be best for the organization is we all move on. Because he clearly doesn't want to coach this team. Why would he want to stay?
Well, I think he probably wants to stay, but I think...
But why?
Because I think he probably feels like he deserves a chance to turn it around. And he probably feels like he deserves a chance to get another bite at the apple with selecting another quarterback. But here's the funny thing, right? So I'm kind of kidding, but not really. If you are trying to trade Belichick, that's got to be a Robert Kraft talking to another owner situation?
So their website under front office lists Robert
404 error message.
Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft as president, and then in a much smaller picture, Matt Groh, spelled Groh, like Al
Groh's son, probably,
is the director of player personnel.
Well, clearly this would be a Jonathan Kraft. This would be a John Kraft move.
Yes, like John Kraft, I'll give you a 7th right now.
Jonathan Kraft, I think, is one of those people who's actually very influential, and you never hear about him.
He's up in the box with Robert.
No, I know, but he's never quoted in a news story.
Yeah,
like the opposite of Stephen Jones.
The opposite of Stephen.
Always hear about Stephen Jones.
Well, but Stephen Jones is right out there. Like Jerry does a radio interview on Tuesdays and Stephen does one on Fridays or whatever. Like they're the same playbook. This is different.
The Miami Dolphins, meanwhile, they should have been AFC East champs, but another disappointment last night, losing Sunday Night Football at home to the Bills 21-14. They did not score after halftime, were outgained 473 to 275 overall. Head coach Mike McDaniel.
They did much better than we did across the board. It was very, very disappointing. Starting with, I always look at myself. Then we had some things that possibly could have been there that, had self-inflicted wounds.
And now they have to play in KC Saturday night while the division champion Bills get to host the Steelers Sunday afternoon. TJ Watt has a grade 2 MCL sprain, according to his brother. JJ also saying that TJ needs a few weeks of rest and recovery, but Pittsburgh doesn't have that time. The rest of your the rest of your super wild card weekend schedule is Browns at Texans, 4:30 Eastern Saturday. Same time on Sunday for the Cowboys and Packers in Dallas. The Rams and Lions in Detroit on Sunday Night Football, and then Eagles at Bucks on Monday night. LeBron dunked over Paul George, scored 25 total points as the Lakers beat the Clippers 106-103. The Lake Show snapping their 4-game skid while ending the Clips' 5-game run. The Dodgers spent again, adding outfielder Teoscar Hernandez, a reported 1-year deal worth $23.5 million. Hernandez, an all-star back in 2021. Last season, 26 homers, 93 RBI for Seattle. And South Dakota State won its second FCS title in a row yesterday, 23-3 over Montana in Frisco, Texas.
That's the Jackrabbits?
Those are the Jackrabbits. 29 consecutive wins. These are the only 2 titles in their program history. Guys, back to you.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
If you're Mike Tomlin, are you upset with the way people are perceiving you this season? I saw a graphic on Fox Sunday. These coaches are probably safe, and it had Robert Saleh, Brian Dable, and Mike Tomlin. Isn't that unfair to Mike? Mike Tomlin just took a team with an injured quarterback and all sorts of other problems and got them to 10-7 in the playoffs. Are we maybe underestimating the job he did? Because he was certainly on the hot seat a month ago.
Oh, well, definitely, because it seemed like he was being really obstinate in keeping Matt Canada.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing.
You're like actively hurting the team, and everyone can see. You're right, though. I think a Super Bowl winning head coach doesn't deserve to be on the same graphic. I know Daboll's won a couple Super Bowls as an assistant, but doesn't really deserve to be on the same graphic as those two guys.
And he is safe, right? Even if they get killed in this playoff game, I think he's got a job back, right?
I think so, but it's this weird, chicken and the egg conversation with him. Is he the reason why they're in a bad way that he then rallies them out of? That's
right,
where people are splitting in Pittsburgh now.
Good enough to win 10 games, but not good enough to get back to the Super Bowl.
Right,
Wasn't that the rap that we heard about Pittsburgh?
Well, it's kind of like, the famous Simpson line from Homer Simpson about beer. He's like, or alcohol. He's like, alcohol, the cause of and solution to all life's problems.
Exactly.
Right? It's like Mike Tomlin, the cause of and solution to all your problems. No, I don't think he's the cause of. I think he definitely stays. My bigger question mark is really about the Bears. They're fascinating to me because, I think the whole time the right move would be to fire Eberflus, trade Justin Fields, and then start over with Caleb Williams. To me, that seems like such a no-brainer. And I like Fields, and I like watching him play. But you have this opportunity. You can't punt on the number 1 overall pick 2 years in a row when you don't have an obvious franchise quarterback in the building. That's insanity to me. And if they kept him just because he won a couple games at the end of the season, earth to the Bears, it's his job to win games. He hasn't been able to do it until a furious thing at the end. I never liked this to begin with, and I'm curious if he's going to get fired today.
Well, I actually think we're going to come in tomorrow. Matt Eberflus will be gone, but I do think if you kept them, you'd get so many assets if you trade that number 1 pick that you could have Marvin Harrison Jr. one receiver, DJ Moore at the other. You could have Montez Sweat rushing the passer. I think they could be the favorite with Justin Fields because the NFC North. I mean, Detroit's got to deal with Dan Campbell and all his mistakes. Green Bay has no defense, and the Vikings are rebuilding. I think Chicago would be a real playoff team next year.
Okay, but Green Bay has no defense, and what happened yesterday? They stopped Justin Fields. Now, they might have basically concussed him, and then 2 plays later, the independent neurologist finally decided to take a look at him.
But add a bunch of talent in the offseason, possible that you could, at least there's a case to be made. If I was a fantasy football player, I'd want to be the Bears. I'd trade that pick and be like, oh my God, I have more first-round picks than any team ever, and I could add so much talent.
I know, but what if Caleb Williams, I know you don't want to play the what-if game, but what if he ends up becoming this next great thing? You're going to look like the world's biggest loser.
True, but we all know, I mean, Caleb Williams goes to Chicago. That grass in Chicago and that weather, it just does not feel like a match made in heaven. It doesn't feel like anyone's thrown 50 touchdowns in Chicago. I mean, I don't even know for sure.
I'd like to give it a shot. I mean, he'd be the best prospect you'd had forever.
I don't even know for sure if Caleb Williams is going to do it. I mean, he might.
No, I don't like to do that unless a guy's really out there saying he's going to do it.
I mean, what sign is Caleb Williams not given about I'm going to control this draft process? There hasn't been a quarterback since Eli who's been as adamant saying, like, listen, just I'm going to be in charge of this process, not
his
you.
Dad?
Well, he said I could go back to USC if I don't like the NFL situation.
No, the reason why he said I could go back to USC, I think, is because USC was still playing.
No, I think they were very clear about NFL. They think he said it. I think his dad said, I want the right situation for my son.
Yeah,
other dads have said that. I mean, we had Carson Palmer sit down the hall and tell Boomer and Jew that Joe Burrow was not going to the Bengals, and he's the Bengals, and everything has been fine. He's going to the Bears. He'll be the number one pick. Was
Trevor Lawrence, would he have gone to the Jets? Yes, he would have. And he went to the Jags. And
also, Caleb Williams' dad is a famous controlling dad. I'm not going to compare to the Marinoviches, but he's been eyeing his son's NFL future since he was 16, apparently.
Okay, but so is Kyler Murray's dad, allegedly, and he ended up in Arizona.
Kyler Murray's dad, I mean, that's a totally different story. Caleb has been like, I think Kyler Murray was never like, it was a shock that he was a baseball player.
No, but the dad's really involved, is what I'm saying.
Right, but Caleb Williams' dad is apparently had this blueprint for his son to be a Hall of Fame NFL player. I think he's very controlling about this, and there's reason to not think Chicago is going to be a great fit.
855-212-4CBS. Bogusch, thank you so much. Coming up, we've got a pick for tonight's college football national championship game. Does this count with our official picks? Also, I want to go double or nothing on a certain bet. That got Bogusch's attention.
On the bet?
On the bet.
Can you do that without Pete and EJ here right now?
What's the bet?
Like
the singlet.
The singlet bet, the leotard
What's less
bet.
than a singlet?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Victor Wembanyama.
No. That one's set in stone.
I feel good about that one.
Well, if Perloff will have to drive to San Antonio if Wemby wins Rookie of the Year, just to apologize.
When Wemby wins Rookie of the Year.
I mean, he's
it into existence.
Distant second.
He's not distant. It's also January.
No, I've got a double or nothing proposition for our other bet. We'll do that next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
The rest of your blah, 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 blah. The rest of your super wild card weekend schedule is Browns at Texans.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff, national championship tonight. Michigan Wolverines, 4.5-point favorites over the Washington Huskies. Again, the disrespect to the Washington Huskies is massive. I'm taking the points in this game. I will also take the under 56.5. Now, I don't know if you have a thought on this, Perloff. This will not count as far as our official picks, though, not our NFL picks. This is a separate thing. Now, I'm also wondering if Perloff would be willing to crack open our bet again. Now, the bet that I lost, fair and square, EJ and I both lost it, which is that we thought Alabama was going to beat Michigan. They did not, which means we both have to wear wrestling singlets on the show.
This crap is crap.
Yeah.
So
couldn't have said it better myself.
So, okay, so you want to do a little wheeling and dealing here. What's double or not? I'd love to hear what double of wearing a singlet is.
Well, I thought of double, and EJ talked about this, and Carlos just talked about it. What if the double means I would have to wear the singlet to WrestleMania, which is coming to Philadelphia the first week of April? Philadelphia is not that far from where we are. It's going to be cold, which I'm a little worried about. But I would wear the singlet to WrestleMania, which feels rather embarrassing.
Oh, wait. If I
lose.
If you lose. Because I was going to say, that sounds like a win.
Really? And what?
You get to go to WrestleMania wearing a singlet? That's awesome.
I was telling her she'll be a star over there.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's why
I'm like, I I guess it's enticing.
No, it's cool to go to WrestleMania. Don't get me wrong about that.
No, I know,
That
but it's
part is
even
cool.
cooler to go wearing a wrestling singlet.
Is it though? Why don't people wear those? If it's so cool, why aren't
I've
they?
gone to a bunch of wrestling shows. You don't see anybody in singlets, so
Thank
it's
you.
totally a punishment. But that weekend, I think you'll endear yourself to a lot of people.
But does that, all right, be honest, does that sound like a double? The embarrassment level of wearing a singlet is pretty high already. To double that embarrassment, going to WrestleMania in that singlet, I'm not sure that's a double.
Well, it's as close as I could get. I need a way to try to hatch out of this bed.
Wearing a singlet is pretty embarrassing. If you want to double that embarrassment, I think me and the audience could go to
But
work
think
here.
about it. I mean, you're not only wearing a wrestling singlet to WrestleMania. Think of the time. It's going to be cold and miserable out there. It's very possible it could rain, too.
Are you
That
talking-
is definitely punishment worthy.
Are we talking about cold, like the cold water in that viral video of the guy who jumped into the pond at the Bass Pro Shop? Is that where we're going, Carlos? Very, very cold water, if you know what I mean. And by the way, that's not Maggie's problem. That's EJ's problem, the cold weather and wearing a singlet. That is definitely not double. I think our audience would be frustrated if you got to nothing for that bet.
Oh, all right.
I can't do that for the audience. I mean, double the embarrassment of a singlet. I mean, you might have to be naked and jump into a Bass Pro Shop pond. I mean, that is the double that
Maybe
embarrassment.
we can get this sponsored.
I mean, it would probably look like, I'm not going to say it. What happens to that guy who jumped into the Bass Pro Shops? He's going to jail, right?
How about the guy who stole the tarpon from Bass Pro Shop a few weeks ago and they still haven't found him yet? He stole the giant fish out of one of their ponds?
Wait a minute. Is Bass Pro Shops like under assault? What's going on here?
Bass Pro
this guy
Shops-
stripped down and jumped into the giant, pond that's in Bass Pro Shop.
We don't have one in New York City where I live. If they did, that would be considered a field trip for the kids. Like taking to a Bass Pro Shop is the most fun I've ever had. They used to be a big sponsor of Dan Patrick Show.
Yeah.
And we would just go for they'd be like, here's $100 to spend at Bass Pro Shop. Greatest day ever. It is the best store. Now, why you'd be compelled to take your clothes off and jump in the pond, that I don't understand.
Or it's like a tank. It looked
Yeah,
like a tank. It was like one in Alabama, and a guy stripped down, and then he did like multiple jumps. It was like
Like an otter?
you know those old movies from like the 50s where like a woman jumps in the water and then she slowly comes out of the water and has like perfect hair and makeup. He was kind of doing those kind of dives,
Well,
like
like
artistic
synchronized
looking
swimming?
dives. What's that?
Like synchronized swimming?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
kind of.
doing?
Something like
Yeah.
that. But solo.
It's easy to be synchronized when you're by yourself.
Yeah, this guy was definitely marching to the beat of his own drum. He was saying
Okay.
something too, which didn't distract anyone, unfortunately. From
How about this?
what was going on
now
down
I'm
south.
inspired. How about you buy a ticket to the Jags game and you find your way into that pool wearing the
Aw.
wrestling singlet?
That pool's got to have so much VD in it.
You just don't want to get in that pool.
I want to get in that pool.
Oh, come on.
What do you think's floating around in that petri dish of a pool?
So it's not even the wrestling singlet that bothers you. It's just
The
exposure to the water in the Jaguars pool.
I'd rather get into the tank with the literal stingrays from
Oh,
the
come
Tampa
on.
Bay Rays than get into that Jaguars pool.
You have to be a millionaire to get in that pool. It's not a Bass Pro Shop pond.
I just want to go to a place with 100 adults and peed in it. Thank you to Carlos Ortiz. Thank you to Manny Rodriguez. Thank you to Andrew Kaplan, Andrew Bogusch, Guidos, Coffee Drinkers. We'll see you tomorrow.
You're in a 5-minute break.